I want to hear directly from Funcom how the endgame is supposed to work, how they imagine the endgame to work. So that's going to be plenty intriguing from that side. Now, what we're currently watching, for everyone that's just here, just joined, has been here all the time, we're going kind of through the classes, and we're currently checking out the Planetologist that you can get early.
That can launch either yourself or targets into the air. The only one technique that can be learned.
Okay, conservative of energy. When you focus your efforts, you can reduce the power drain of every action that you take. That's quite useful.
Is at the end of the scientist.
But I assume that you also get like skills here. Tinkering with your power pack allows you to increase the recharge rate. This is good for shields later on, I assume. You've made minor adjustment to the way you use the compactor that improves the efficiency of its resource yield. This is generally like also on the right side here, wasn't it? That you get more ore when you actually farm. That's why people wanted Planetologist early, that you have just more outcome of what you do. Because who doesn't like to farm harder? You can now create synced charts of areas revealed by your surveys. Though you have no formal training with the still suit, you've adjusted several seals and tabs that must be properly fitted for the suit to act with optimum efficiency. Hydration capture. Oh, that's not bad. You have become proficient with the hand scanner, improving the range of detection. That's unnecessary. Through research and field experience, you've learned to recognize the density of spice bet from surveys. This ability is most used in the deep desert. I guess that's one you want to have for the end game, if we then actually make it all the way to the end game. Fuel efficient driver. Oh, that's nice. Would you use less fuel? Dankeschön. I hate like using up my fuel, especially like later fuel efficient pilot, because I want to have an Ornithopter, right? Ian, what up? We are going to be watching this in a second together as the community, because live, we want to see what the Dune Endgame has to offer. In 12 minutes, 09, we get live the guys from Funcom to show us something. So that's pretty damn cool, especially since we only have 7 days until the release or the early access. It's going to be a bit of a busy day for me with the early access because we got some event beforehand, and then we're just driving straight in. Okay, we got here the Swordmaster. I haven't seen much from the Swordmaster, though. What does he have? The Swordmaster has a knee charge, propel forward, and knee slap someone. Then we got, you inspire yourself and your companions to greater heights, increasing damage of your melee attacks. I laughed about melee in the beginning, but I gotta say the Bane and Gatherit has also great melee skills where you can stun opponents. It's super good. Still in doubt of getting in a guild or not. I have a good answer for you, JJ the Fox, because I watched a video that was really telling. Let me show you. It was called Dune Awakening Solo. And it was a bit about how to play Dune Awakening solo. Can you solo Dune Awakening? I'm not sure if it was exactly this video, but generally, here is Dune Awakening playable solo. This one here. And you can, because the endgame systems allow it. We actually just watched from the Funcom website a video of the endgame, how the endgame actually works to a degree. So they have shown something of the Lansraad. And the Lansraad is something that is bound to factions and everything. So if you're solo in a guild or not, you can actually join a faction, okay? You can join a house, like whichever you would like to be. And then with this house, you can then do these tasks to put your house forward. Okay. And still reap the benefits. Now, the only problem with solo is that the PvP endgame is probably not going to be the best experience. And that's why what I'm waiting for with this live stream. This is why we're doing this. I'm a solo player myself. I mostly play solo. I need to know how much is this possible. How much can we really do alone? Not that I don't want to make a guild with you guys, right? Not that we don't want to do this. But what we certainly do want to know is if I could do a lot solo. That's the thing. So with the Lansraad, you can join these factions, and these are the rewards, right? This is a spice gathering thing, or seeds, or whatever. And you get fabrics, you get cope, you get a house vacuum light armor set. And there's your personal contribution, but also the contribution of all your faction. Which means you're not necessarily forced to do all the things yourself. Now, the problem is if you're not in a guild, right? If you're not actively participating with a lot of people. Here, top contributors. You can see that House Atreides won this. House Harkon lost. And you can see the different guilds that performed. The Sentinels, the Umbra, the Nameplate, the LFG, the Sotzok. So if you play solo, you'll probably not be there. You know? And as someone in chat is saying, Mr. Clockman, they say you can achieve everything solo. If you don't want to PvP, you can buy the resources and blueprints from the market. There's probably going to be some rare blueprints that you're not going to be able to get. But let's be fair. If I can get 90% of the game solo, and I don't have to engage in the PvP, and for 10% of the super rare stuff, I would have to PvP, then I might actually not care about the 10%, unless I find friends. Because end of the day, this is a multiplayer experience. We might actually find friends. I know it sounds crazy, but you might actually find friends to play with. Buying stuff off market is not endgame, though. Actually, it is, Kian. For example, buying blueprints for bases in the endgame. I mean, imagine you're a solo player and you like to base build. What you can do is you can spend your time base building, right? You can spend your time making bases, smart base blueprints for the endgame that make sense in the deep desert. And then you can sell these base blueprints on the market for people. I mean, end of the day, the game is marketed as an MMO experience. And if you play solo, it's your own choice. I mean, again, I want to play solo, so I can't complain about that I can't achieve certain things solo, right? Because the game is not made that way. It's like playing World of Warcraft and then complaining that you can't raid Molten Core alone. That's just stupid, to say it nicely. Also, I really do want to have my Ornithopter, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to just crash it consistently. This is something I sadly haven't gotten to experience yet, so actually being able to fly around, I would really, really like to have this. And all these bases are kind of like, they're built all the way in the mountains, obviously. Okay, you can just land it there. This is how far I definitely want to play. All the way into the end game, to have an Ornithopter to fly around, to finally have a base that you also can keep. Apparently, the Ornithopters don't take fall damage or clip into rocks. I mean, I'm all for it. I like to see all these base designs that people come up with, because I'm usually a very, how do I say this now, uninventive builder. I just build a tiny 4x4 and I'm happy. Like seeing people build like things like this. Okay, sir, ma'am, dude. Beautiful. I'm a very efficient builder, right? No, Castiel, they're not going to be interacting well with each other, sadly. Oh, damn, that's beautiful. It looks like an evil Bene Gesserit temple. For sure. Okay, what do we have? We have a few minutes left. Go forward, 4 minutes left. Then we get to the live stream. We're going to listen to everything, give our comments, and see what we get coming our way. With a lot of these buildings, I always have to think about Star Wars, like first glance. Like, oh, this could be a Naboo. Damn. No, I knew what I built in the beta, and then you see like these people, and you're like, well, what are you doing? Are you gonna Harkon pony? I I'm actually leaning more to the evil guy. Well, is House Harkon the evil guys? Are they really evil? Kinda. Kinda. Yeah, exactly. Old Star Wars Galaxy Enjoyer. Exactly, Clockman. I don't know, the whole space is giving you like distinct Star Wars vibes, which is not a bad thing. It's a scorpion. Chat, it's a land scorpion. Oh man. People. I love people. Look, he has 2 hands that are like living hubs. House Harkon is extremely evil by any metric. I mean, the world of Dune is a little bit like who isn't evil. Correct? It's a little bit like Elden Ring. It's like who's more evil than the other, but everyone is kind of like evil. Am I wrong or right? I don't remember too much of the books. It's been a while. But it's kind of like, so House Harkon is evil, and the Emperor is evil, and the whole Empire is evil, and then House Atreides is kind of like also evil, but less evil, right? So kind of like everyone is shit. So who's the most or the least? With degrees of evil, House Harkon is at the extreme end. That's true. That much is true. I purchased the Ultimate Edition. I will get myself the Deluxe Edition. With the Deluxe Edition, you get the Head Start, the Season Pass, and you get the Sardaukar Bator Armor. I don't need to get the Dune film stillsuit. The stillsuit looks great, I'll admit. It's pretty cool, but I prefer the evil guy armor. Okay, I'm Harkon. What can I say? Hey, do you want to have the stillsuit out of the movie, like of the good guys, or do you want to have the evil guy armor? Well, Deluxe Edition. I want the evil guy armor. What can I say? Right? This is going to be me running around being like a menace. For sure. There's no question. So I will get the 5-day early access, and we will play 5 days early. That is absolutely for sure. Now, what do we have? 2 minutes left. We also do have to decide what class to play. We know all classes unlock over time, right? You can get the Planetologist early. You can get the Trooper early. You can get the, what was it? The Bene Gesserit? No, the Mentat. Someone said you can get the Mentat early too. All of these are just waiting for you. I can't wait till tomorrow for Elden Ring Night Rain. That on top, my plan currently is we're going to play Elden Ring Night Rain non-stop until the release of Dune Awakening. And then it's going to be Dune. Phantom, your guide for Tainted Grail is awesome. Thank you. Also, I wasn't aware that Tainted Grail is TGTFOA. Oh, holy Christ. That's definitely better than writing it all out, Phantom Taxon. I'm quite excited for this live stream. I gotta say, I haven't watched a Funcom live stream so far. Like, I watched them afterwards, but I haven't been there live yet. Pumped by Phil, thank you for the Prime subscription. Thank you for the 93 months of support. Phil, welcome back, brother. Almost with 100 month. Greetings to the Funcom live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're going to join me on the 5th. I'm not sure if we're going to do a community guild or something. I will certainly communicate on which server we're going to go. So if anyone then wishes to follow up, be my guest. Do we know how long their stream will be? I think it could be around an hour. Hopefully long and in depth. Right? Because I want to know a lot about the endgame. This is going to make or break kind of if people are going to buy or not. If the endgame is too much PvP, I can see a lot of people saying, nah. If the endgame is a good, healthy mix, yes. It's truly one of these moments that decides over the future of a game and how much you're going to like it.
Few survive this world. But those who do...
Volume! Have their stream too quiet.
Awaken.
Good.
The desert wants you dead, off-worlder. If the sands don't take you...
If the voices are too quiet, tell me. You can pump it louder. Bit.
You don't have to walk this path alone. In every danger.
By the way, one in the chat if you have gotten eaten by a sandworm already.
The foundation of something greater. A power waiting to be harnessed.
I've definitely been eaten by a sandworm as well, sadly.
Desert power.
Thought I was smarter,
Some claim
cooler,
to rule
stronger.
this planet.
I wasn't.
But Arrakis is yours to explore. To fight for. To conquer. But there are forces beyond even your control.
They did really nail the sandworms though. The whole vibe, like when you see one, it's always like, fuck, I'm out. Save me, Jesus.
Master Arrakis. And it will open your mind. This is your path to awakening.
Give me sandworm PTSD. On only the last day you get eaten just for the feeling. It is a dreadful feeling when that thing is coming closer and you just notice you can't get out.
Hello everybody to our, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, last developer live stream before our head start and the full launch of Dune Awakening. I'm Natasha Rösli. I have the honor to be your host for today.
That lady
and
is one of our community
I'm not
members,
the only one when I say
way.
I'm so excited for you to experience what our teams have been working on for the past years. So some of you have gotten a taste of what the game feels and looks like during the beta weekend, but today we go beyond the beta and show you a glimpse of mid
gameplay Deep
and
Desert.
endgame of Dune Awakening. We have first a little segment where we talk beta and combat. We then have live gameplay of Haga Basin and also social hubs. We go into live gameplay of the Deep Desert, and as always, we have a Q&A in the end where we'll be connecting questions from you, from chat, live during the stream. But before we dive into all of that, let's watch a brand new video.
I want to see the Deep Desert. That's really like, I don't know what to expect, how it actually works. Right?
Combat in Dune Awakening is the fusion of melee, shields, ranged, abilities, and vehicles.
Yes.
As you progress, your tactical options expand, allowing you to express yourself through different styles of play. In the beginning, combat is a short, brutal affair.
Yes.
Do everything you can to knock your opponents off balance and open them up for a retaliating strike. Keep an eye on your stamina, or find yourself in
The
trouble.
counter is one of my favorite moves.
Early abilities change the paradigm. Use the voice to force your enemies to come to you. Shigawire Claw to stagger an enemy.
That is
Knee
possible.
charge into melee range.
Huh. I wasn't aware you could
Ranged
shoot wire
weapons
claw an
like the
enemy.
Mauler pistol allow you to maintain distance and take down enemies from afar. Until a shielded enemy enters
They're copying
the
my
fray.
build, I see.
Boltzmann shields change the nature of combat. Their kinetic barrier can only be pierced by slow-moving objects. Fast on defense, slow on attack. Swords, daggers, kinjals, and rapiers are effective for dealing with shielded enemies.
I was so happy when I
But
first
without
got my
a shield
shield.
of your own, you will quickly be overwhelmed by enemy fire. But the shields also have a weakness beyond the slow blade. Ranged attacks cannot be fired from inside an active shield, creating a window of opportunity for the others to exploit. Specialized range weapons can counteract shields. The drill shot rifle fires drilling darts that will attach to a shield and slowly pass through.
I didn't know.
The disruptor fires statically charged darts at variable speeds to overwhelm the power supply of the shield. Abilities can turn the tide of any battle. Swordmasters use their deflection ability to close the distance and bring their crippling strikes to bear on their enemies. Troopers use their techniques to take to the air and bring death from above. Bene Gesserit stop enemies in their tracks with the power of the voice, or use their Bindu dash to quickly close the gap. Mentats control the battlefield with their sentinel, or use the Hunter-Seeker for a silent takedown. Abilities, ranged weapons, shields and melee work in concert to allow mastery. But beyond mastery lies the spice.
And that's something I haven't
Consume it
messed with,
to awaken.
spice abilities.
Transcend human limits with new abilities and prescience, seeing what others cannot, the narrow path to victory. Combine these techniques freely to experience sandbox combat. Create unique strategies and bring them to bear against your foes. Always remember, Arrakis takes the weak.
That's why PvP could technically be interesting with all of these abilities and everything, right? Making like a fun, unique build and then just surprising your opponent with whatever you get cooking.
And we are back and diving straight into our first segment, showing you
And then he has
mid-game
grilling
in the
darts,
Haga
exactly.
Basin towards endgame as well. But first, let's of course introduce our guests for today. Here on this side, we did let him out of the doghouse. We have Joel Bylos, aka Chris Knife, our creative director. Joel, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everybody. My name is, I have to admit it, Joel Bylos this time. So because this is the last live stream, I'm going to admit that my name is Joel.
Love it.
It's fine. And yep, looking forward to talking about everything we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Yes, and on this side we have Scott Jr., our executive producer on the game, new face.
Yeah. Finally let me out. You know,
Yes.
the game is gone.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's good to see you both, and good to talk about Dune finally.
Very excited. So, Scott, let us do a little bit of a throwback to beta.
Sure.
Players, as mentioned, have had, let's say, not a small taste, but a taste of the game, the survival aspect of the game. Maybe we can have an infographic where we actually see what the players in the beta were able to experience. Here we have a little infographic.
Did we get early to
What
mid-game?
was the most valuable takeaway
Now we
from
want to
this
know
beta?
mid-10 game.
I think getting the game in so many people's hands so they can understand what we made. When we started working on Dune, we wanted to make more than just a normal survival game. We wanted to make a very Dune game, first and foremost. And so that's not obvious, right, what we were doing, because we were taking a lot of risks trying to do some new takes on things to make them more Dune than survival. So we have a lot of people finally being able to play the game and understand, what we're trying to do. So that was great. And then seeing the feedback and the reactions and all the social media posts, all the YouTube videos, it's been fantastic seeing all the feedback. My personal takeaways is that we had a couple technical issues that we were able to sort out and get fixed pretty quickly. Some issues with some crashes and freezes that we've
Right
already
now
fixed.
expecting, like,
so I'm really
100K
excited to
players,
get the game out next
at
week
least.
so everybody can see what we've changed.
What do you think, Chad?
Anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, for me, it's just a lot of fun to watch people finally playing. Like, someone asked me on Discord like a year ago, like, tell us about the game. They wanted me to describe the game. They weren't in the beta. And I was like, well, it's very hard to describe because it's something unique. Yes, it has some familiar survival stuff, but we've layered it all underneath the Dune IP. And it's really hard to describe how all of those things come together to create something that I feel is kind of unique and interesting, right? And so, I think it was fun for people to really get their hands on it. I mean, we've been talking with the closed beta players for a while, but seeing people in the world having it, streaming
This is
it,
what we get now. Deep
putting up
desert.
YouTube videos, talking about what they were experiencing. I think, importantly, people finding out whether they like or dislike the game as well, because I really like people to be able to make an informed choice about what they're buying as well. So, yeah.
100%. I think one thing I can add to this as well is, like, for me, having a little bit more of a bird's eye view of how the developers and the teams were reacting to this, because me too, we have been so close to the game for such a long time, you can't really judge it anymore, like from a normal gamer perspective. And then seeing all those amazing kind of, obviously there was feedback as well that we kind of needed to address and things. More on that in a second. But it was just so fun to see how everyone kind of was like, no, we have something here, like people are enjoying it and they're getting it and they're like having fun playing the game, and that was really great to see from that perspective as well, like just overall.
In the moments like people almost getting eaten by the sandworm, right? Those are very
It had a
tense
graphic.
moments that
What was
happen in
it?
the game.
Over
Just seeing the reactions for people.
over 100,000
Exactly.
people were
Yeah,
eaten by
there was one thing I really
sandworms
enjoyed was
during
also
the
like
beta.
watching people coming in.
I was one of them.
I don't want to say skeptics, but they kind of, as they hit the beats of the game, as they progress through the game, in the beginning they're like, okay, this is this and this is this, and they kind of, and then like they're like,
Resets
wait,
the map
wait,
every
you
week.
can combine the suspensor belt and the Shigawa.
It's wiping
core, and
out
you
all
can-
the buildings.
Oh wait, you can do these things. Oh cool, I got and suddenly the game, like, it's opening up more and more, and they're really starting to understand the philosophy of how we approach the development with the sandbox, right? So I don't know. As I saw people experience, I was just like, oh god, they're seeing it and doing it. It's
They
great.
get it. They have
get
those
it.
light bulb moments that we were
Yes.
hoping for, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and they just were growing more positive as they played more, right? And that to me is huge. It's really important.
Yeah. And it's, as I mentioned, that are the things that are really great to see from kind of an outside perspective as well.
And it was good. It's the first slide was showing this, right? It's just the first 20 hours, so it's just a taste of the game, right? It's just the very beginning of Act 1. We have so much more to show, and
Which
the best
is
parts are here to
the
come.
rest,
can
quite
talk
a bit,
about it.
like a little bit of the stream as well. But going back to the beta weekend, there were of course some things that weren't that great, that didn't go as planned. One of those moments was, of course, the PvP moment in the broadcast, and when it comes to melee combat specifically. But we have actually worked on this and addressed it. Scott, maybe you can give a bit of
Yeah,
context
so
to that.
we were aware of this issue. We've been in closed beta for a year and a half almost now, right? The new combat came in August of last year.
Yep.
And we've been making tweaks based on feedback and playtests that we've been doing. So going into the beta, we knew that there was that issue around stamina and what would happen if it ran out. And we'd already been working on it for over a month to try to fix it. So we patched out a change to it. Do you want to go over the details of that?
I mean, the high level changes it's something like this now, right? So heavy and slow blade have been separated as attacks. So a heavy staggers people now, and then a slow blade finishes them off, like, or goes into the slow blade attack. So you actually, now holding the button, you'll actually do a heavy attack. All attacks have now got proper stamina costs attached to them. And then in addition, if you're in a place where you're getting into the stun lock situation, you get an ability which is called Second Wind. It just pops on. It starts to restore your stamina bar quickly so you can dodge out of any sort of stun lock in that situation. So yeah, we've been doing balance around stamina costing on everything. We've been doing balance around the way attacks work. I think it's all working pretty well. Scott
It's
and I
always
did a
good to
fair
get
bit of
out of stun
PvP
lock or
ourselves.
We're pretty bad at
On
it.
the top
but
of his
we
ship
can
wreck.
try.
One? Did you do
Yeah,
well?
I think
Yeah,
I
won
day
yeah.
one, and Joel won day two. Maybe?
I think you won day one, but that was because on the second day I slotted the Bene Gesserit technique, the Mentat technique, which allowed me to avoid his voice power. And then he wasn't able to
I
get me
see.
anymore. So then it was fun. Like it's fun to
rock,
see
paper,
how
scissors approach.
how the dynamics work, right? So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I think we're still, we put it on the closed beta. We're getting feedback from people and testing. But one thing is important to stress, right? It's a live game, and we're going to continue to patch and update. So we'll be paying a lot of attention to what happens as the game goes live and as people are playing. And we're here to make the game better. That's our job.
Promise
So-
content every
absolutely.
3
That's
months.
beautifully said. Thank you. But enough just
Post-launch.
dry talk. Let's jump into some gameplay. So we actually have an example of group gameplay. I'm like, that word is just not as
I
many.
thought you were
as-
going to, when you said dry
Glam
examples, I thought you were
play.
going to break out the wine. But let's,
Maybe I should. Maybe I
So there's 3 people here in this
But
vehicle, it
yes,
seems,
so we
right?
have some group gameplay, mid game actually.
Yeah, mid-ish game,
We can
yeah.
probably just comment on it as
Sure.
well, what we're seeing and how it's different from what people have seen in the beta specifically.
sure, you want.
Sure, yeah, I can go. So
that thing can farm.
If you played to the Vermilius Gap, you know the journey is still very isolated to yourself, right, and your sand bike, and you have a small base. As you're moving into the next areas, like the Hogga, or this is the Rift, right? You unlock the buggy, and the great thing about the buggy is it allows you to start mining from your vehicle, and the resource requirement as you go further and further into the game is more intense. But the buggy and other systems like that allow you to increase your harvest rate also.
Yep.
And this is a fantastic part, right? Just
Yeah.
moving around, going to the different resources, either switching yourself to the turret, or if you have a friend, having the friend man the mining laser, right?
What
and
an
being
AI
able to
that
harvest resources.
operates the turret,
Yeah, the
please.
buggy's a multi-seat vehicle, right? So when you get to the mid-game, it's good to start crafting that, right? And then you can get out there and you can harvest. It has a huge inventory space as well, compared to like the sand bike or what the players can carry. Our philosophy of design with the game, like I've seen people asking for more inventory space on their character, but our philosophy of design for the game was that you build vehicles and they become your inventory space. You can see how big this is and how much volume it can hold.
Okay.
So the buggy really is like your mining vehicle of choice as you get into the mid-game. And if you're playing with friends, someone's on the turret, someone's in the driver's seat, you can have a friend in the passenger seat as well. You can bring multiple people, but you can also just like do this alone, jump between seats. In the interaction menu, you just select I want to drive now, I want to sit in the turret seat and mine. But I want to talk a little bit about this location because we're in this place called the Hagga Rift. And as you can see, it's this dark, gloomy, it's basically a geological ditch.
Good friend, exactly.
And Herbert talked about this in
Can
the
you
book.
do
He
this
talked
alone?
about the
Yes.
folk of
Check.
Pan and
Good.
Graben. And this Graben are these big ditches, these big chasms that you have on Dune, on Arrakis. And in here, it's like the sunlight doesn't really penetrate to the bottom. And down here, there's been this ongoing war of attrition between the Atreides and the Harkonnen over this shipwreck, which is central to this
Okay, you
area.
drive and mine at the same
And
time,
then
you have to
as you
switch
come
seats.
up out of the Hagga Rift, you come back into these other areas of the map, and it's like it's a different style and tone to the desert. And I know people have been concerned, or at least been
Are there
worried that like
sandworms
everything's
down
one
in the
biome.
chasm?
But as you go down into the Rift, you feel it's a very different place. And shout out to our world director Jeff. Like one of his big key points about the world was making sure that we had a lot of verticality. And I think Hagga Rift is like an absolutely perfect example of how you can just keep going down and down through these galleries, and there's bases built up through the entire side. It's just this really fun place to be.
It's like, make it deeper, make it deeper.
Exactly.
I remember he mentioned that.
And this is where all the lights come into play. So headlights on vehicles, personal lights on players come in. At this point, this is where you start bringing things, and yeah, it's fun.
And it's so huge because then you fly in with an Ornithopter too. It's
Yes.
like wide and yeah, it's really fun.
Can I
to
fly
explore
into
that
the
way.
chasm?
And the music and the
With an
setting,
Ornithopter.
the atmosphere when you're down, right? You've been in the harsh desert and the Vermilius Gap with like the bright lights
Without crashing it.
on you the entire time, going like from shadow to shadow to preserve water. When you get down there, like the music team's done a very good job of just setting the atmosphere. Feels almost cool.
Is
when
that
you're,
it?
when you're down there?
That's our base in the distance there too,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
where we're heading. So you can see the wreckage of like the wall. You can see that's a deserter base. Like because of the war of attrition that's been happening here, some of the Atreides and Harkonnen have deserted, and they've set up little camps around here, and they create like they're obviously hazardous. But now we're coming to a base that we created for this, and this is the Atreides base building set.
Yeah.
And this kind of, I think this is a
Awoo.
woo.
Awoo.
This is a great example of what you can do outside of the square blocks that everybody was seeing in beta because they only had access to the first couple of sets.
Yeah, and what's important as you get into the mid-game, you start building up your infrastructure, and that's just as important as your equipment or your vehicles. So even if you lose a vehicle, right, like you make your buggy and you get unlucky enough to
You
get
just
eaten
have
by
a
sandworm,
garage full of
like
buggies.
The
in case you
infrastructure
suck.
will allow you to get back on your feet way quicker than that first.
Can we
wave.
can we stop for a second and show a pro tip here? I
yeah.
really want to pro tip something. So, can someone
Absolutely.
go and use a chest?
Yes. Oh, you want to mention my favorite thing?
So if you go to the wait, is that a chest? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go to. So if you're in a chest in the game and you have a vehicle anywhere on your land claim, you can go to the top of the inventory on the left there where it says backpack.
Other
Where it
left.
says backpack on the left-hand side, whoever's driving. Up
Up,
there.
up
Yep.
there,
And
yeah.
click the
Yes.
drop down, and you can select the
Oh, and
vehicle
you can
storage.
pull it out of the
This is a
buggy.
massive quality of life for
I
getting
didn't
things in
know
and out of your
that.
vehicles.
Yes.
Because we see that, we know it's a little bit hidden. It's not the easiest thing to find. But once you know about this, it ups your quality of life in the game immensely because you can just drive in with a buggy full of stuff. Go
That's
into your
a very
base,
good pro
click any
tip.
chest, click on the storage drop down, and start taking things
Thank
out
you,
of the back
Funcom.
of that vehicle.
It's something that the beta tester suggested, isn't it? Like directly?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was something
Yep.
people were asking for during the closed beta, and we
exactly.
implemented it. Yeah.
Another thing that I mentioned before, which is such a small quality of life thing, but we have that too, is you don't have to empty your chests before you can move them.
Oh, exactly.
That's
yeah.
just like that's
Yes.
just a complete mind-blowing quality of life change to me. That's like so nice.
It's like a little
So the
thing,
game
but
works in these
it's like way
phases
better than
of like
dingy-danging
in the
back
beginning,
between your card
you
and
need
everything.
a sandbike to get off walking
And
around.
this thing just looks
right?
great.
Then you move to the phase where you want a buggy to help you to harvest and gather resources. And then you move to the phase where you want to start building your first Ornithopter. And so we have an example of this here. And the vehicle building in the game is very cooperative, right? You can see that these different, we're now adding permissions to allow people to help us to work on this Ornithopter. So this, these guys are all in a group. And so people can cooperatively build. And of course, I think this is the medium, the assault Ornithopter, as we call it. So it's the medium tier. But the largest Ornithopter, the transport Ornithopter, also requires, a lot of parts and a lot of people. So it's kind of part of the way we designed this was to make sure that
That
we had
thing
this
is just way
collaborative
bigger than
building
I
system in
expected
the
it to
game,
be.
both for buildings and for vehicles.
This is my favorite part of the game. Just the building the vehicles actually physically in the world, right? Putting the pieces there, working with your friends to make all the parts of them,
Well, you
and
gotta
then
build
like
all the
mixing
wings,
and matching
John.
the different modules to make the vehicle
Where he doesn't have enough
fit
wings.
the role that you want to use the vehicle with for that moment.
Yeah, and vehicles come with different module sets, right? So you can put inventories on some. You can, like we talked about the buggy. You can actually have a rocket turret on top of the buggy, which I think you
Exactly.
saw in the combat trailer
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
You saw the buggy firing rockets. So you can have different types of things on the
And
different
I think
vehicles,
the
and we'll
57
continue to
months.
expand that post launch as well, making the vehicles more and more useful with utility. Yeah, it's fun, right? And then I guess the other side of this is that we can start talking about variants and swatches, which is our
He's actually
customization
going to
system.
change in a second. We'll
Yeah.
actually see that.
So
there we
we-
go.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
Atreides Ornithopter.
these guys are aligned with the
Boo.
Atreides.
And skin is pretty
So
impressive. I'm
here
gonna
we just
say.
switched out the Atreides. And a variant, just to put the distinction in place, a swatch allows you to change the color sets, but a variant allows you to change the physical visual.
The actual
so this is
model, yeah.
this is the shape of the Atreides. It's got the hawk-like lines. It's got the sharp angles.
Boo.
I mean,
and
once
the,
in a
and the
while,
Harkonnen have more
actually
of an
impressive
insectile
skins.
kind of feel to them.
And not just we made
And so
it
yeah,
blue.
this is and you earn these variants in this case by leveling up in the factions, which is a part of the mid game. Which we aren't really showing a ton of that today. But
So you can earn
as
this
you
and
join
not
a
only
faction,
buy.
go through their quest lines, you earn access to these kind of variants and things like that. And then you're able to use the Atreides colors and swatches and variants.
Yeah, both on vehicles and your armor, right? So
Yes.
Yeah, this
Vehicles,
is pretty
armors.
damn
you
impressive
can
that you can
represent
like
with
earn the
your
skins, even as a solo player.
Harkonnen clothes running in the deep desert,
Yes.
perhaps.
And that's it's important to note that like a lot of our philosophy around this was as well, like you create, so let's say you create a tier 4, like a mid-tier armor set, and it's like a scout armor. You can variant swap that to look like any other scout armor in the game. You can't turn it into a heavy armor or a combat armor because we want people to understand in PvP what they're fighting.
Look, there's a
But you
base
can
all
change
the
it
way
into
on
any
that
other visual
mountain.
of a scout armor, and it's the same with social clothing. It's the same with, obviously combat armor, and it's the same with still suits,
Yeah.
which I mentioned, which are kind of our 4 major armor types in the game.
And
Everyone and their
mentioned-
mom has
oh, sorry.
just to like
No, I was
That's
going to
how-
say social
inside
medium,
a mountain because
social
it's so
scout,
cool.
combat, and
Still suits.
Still suits. Yeah.
Yeah. And what they're showing right now is the Vulture mode and
Yes.
the Ornithopters. So
Sorry.
Ornithopters are great, right? Because you have your helicopter mode where you can move in all directions. You can switch to the Vulture mode, and then it's more of like a glider where you're going up and down to gain speed.
Yep. Yeah. So,
Basically, a airplane mode and a helicopter mode, so to speak.
yeah,
right?
Sort of.
it's like a hover mode and a glide
Yeah.
mode, right?
Yeah.
And the vulture mode allows you to be more maneuverable. You see that they have a boost module. Actually, this is fun. Like when you get to too high an altitude, you start
and then you go
increasing your
down
fuel
and
consumption,
just
which prevents people from going too
Helicopter,
high in the game.
roller
Also
coaster
good
ride.
to know for people who want to stay, close to the ground. Yeah, and now we're flying through an area of the map known as the Shield Wall. which is on the para-northern side of the Haga Basin. We can talk about the para-directions at some point, because that's always awkward and weird. But because para-north is really south in relative terms to the map. But this
There's
is like,
already
these are
premium
rocky
edition
areas, so the
antiques,
sandworm
yes,
is less
that's
of a
true.
threat up here, but the enemies
Still,
are
though,
much
there's a lot
harder,
of
and the resources you
free to
gather up
earn
here are
skins in the
much
game.
more of much more value, right, to what you're doing. So these are areas where you harvest.
And the first time you're coming here, you don't actually have an ornithopter. More than likely,
Yes.
you don't, right? So
Yes.
then you're having to make the choice of like, do you bring your buggy here, which is really high,
Look,
really
look
hard
how
to get
like
to,
high
or do you
up
go with your
the
sand
actual
bike,
mountains are and how
try to
low
climb
the
up
ground
wall?
is.
So it's ultimately it's about choice, how you
Just the
go
verticality
to the
difference.
biomes, and then which vehicles you bring, right, which enable different mechanics based on the one you want.
Yeah, and like this area we're in now is known as the Uldum as well, and the Uldum has a little more plant growth and a little more greenery, and that's because the Uldum is an area where they were doing experiments on some of the land, and we won't talk too much about it, but yeah, we're gonna fly over. I guess this is
our second base.
this is our
yes.
second base on the shield wall. Yeah, so this is the
Lots of
guild
shields.
base. So this is further into the game. People have progressed a bit. They're probably so we
Have
divide
just
the game into
multiple
4
ornithopters
phases.
in the base. I mean, like,
survive,
guild gameplay
protect,
is
expand,
kind
and
of
control.
cool, I gotta say.
So this would be
We have like people
here
working
you're either on
together
the
and have like
expand
this
or the
living
control
base,
part
like
of the game, the
full
sort of last
vehicles
2
and everything.
phases, right?
It's kinda
So you've got a
kinda
bigger
kinda
guild,
rad.
you're working with a larger group of people potentially. You can still play the game solo at this point. Everything just takes
the
a little
release is in
longer and is a
7
little harder
days,
to do on your own, right? And that's you can still do it. You can craft these ornithopters. There's no problem. But we encourage people to play together and work together in a multiplayer game.
And we're showing off some building sets we've never shown before.
Yes.
These will be the Twitch drops.
These are
Yes,
Twitch drops, yeah.
exactly. So the one this is actually the that one's Jome building set, but those round windows and the ceiling pieces, pretty much everything that's more metal than like white stone, those are actually going to be Twitch drops that you will get, so they kind of expand on the existing Jome tier
Ladies and
set,
gentlemen, Twitch
which
drops.
I love them.
Is
I think they're
PvP Force
very
though?
cool.
Wait a
They're
bit,
really
they're going to
cool
talk
looking.
about it.
Yeah, and you can see what we'd expect a guild base to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lots of production going on. It was something that we were really like pushing on in the game development, making sure that the fabricators actually show the items being
Right.
crafted as they
Yeah.
craft, so you see them
So cool.
form up inside the fabrication units. And yes, I know this isn't exactly something from Dune lore. This is one of the places where I was like, I have to make a concession to the game. They don't have fabricators, they're not mentioned in the lore, but it's fine because it's
It
cool.
looks cool,
Rule
yeah.
of cool in some cases.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
this
there's-
is a vehicle fabricator, yeah.
There's also circuits. Have we ever talked about circuits before?
Nope, not actively. You can
Okay.
please feel free.
They're pretty neat. It's not like as intense as like Factorio, right? Making blue science or anything like that. But you are able to set up different circuits in your base, so you
Okay.
can have
Surprise me.
some containers feeding into some fabricators, fabricators feeding into others. You'll never have 100% automation like you would get in a factory builder game, but it does enable you as you get to mid game to start having a fair bit of automation in the game when you're playing, because water and electricity become quite a burden if you don't start upgrading your gear and the infrastructure like we were talking about before. So we introduced passive ways to get water, which is a huge help, because water in the
Okay,
mid and
I
to the
want
end
to
game
know.
even is really important through all aspects, not just survival but also crafting.
For my fellow law nerds out there, we call the passive water generation wind traps.
I was just about to say there are actually some wind traps on this, and
Yeah.
we've seen some while we walked by them as well. And yeah, it's just like you also see here how much bigger those refineries are. We also saw a spice refinery as well, actually. Like
Yeah, there was
the
spice
round- the round
refineries, yeah,
tubes. Yep.
Yeah, and that we just saw a room with some decorations in it as well.
Yeah, we
like just to you can pimp up your area in a
Relax,
sense,
you
like
can,
put out
I think,
holograms.
do
It was
90%
quite
of the
funny.
game
Here's a
without
fun
PvP.
anecdote from development.
But they'll
The
talk
artist
about
made
the
a bunch
desert
of-
in a second.
The artist made a bunch of pot plants
Oh,
for people to put in their
no.
bases, and I was like, guys, it's June.
There's no water to water those.
So we have a
things
lot of holograms
in your
planted now.
buildings. Yeah,
I was like,
they
we
look
can
great
have.
though.
Then I keep saying the word holograms. Sorry, everyone. Solido projections.
Solido projections.
There you go.
Solido projections of
You'd be
plants.
yelling at yourself.
Oh my god, I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad if I
You're like-
wasn't me right now.
If you like decorations, you need to explore quite a bit,
Yes.
right? We don't unlock them all.
Yes.
Go to trade posts, go to places where there are people. You can unlock tons of the stuff that you're seeing around in the
Yes.
base here.
Exactly.
You have to work a little bit for
You'd
it.
have to work
though.
a little
bit
for it, yeah.
Like explore, find people. that will
Yeah,
sell you
and
stuff.
and obviously these doors,
Or-
the pentashield doors and things as well. Like once you reach a certain stage in Dune, you can put shielded doors out, so you don't have to have doors that open
I don't
and close.
buy to play a
And
game
that's
90%.
really
Well,
useful
you don't
when
also
you
buy an
want-
MMO
have
to play
flying
solo
vehicles, you want to land
technically.
in hangars, you don't have to wait for a door to open.
Some of the cool stuff I've seen in beta is they will make a huge base, but it's kind of covering a road. So they'll open up
yeah.
the middle of it and then set the permissions on the Pinto shields so that you can actually drive
Public.
through it.
I
So
mean,
you
I
can't-
do, but
Can't go
that's
into their
just me.
base, but you can still go through the middle of their
Yes.
base,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Good guy players.
Good guy players, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually gonna go up to the roof now and build a transport ornithopter.
nice.
Great.
Which
No.
not
No.
yet. Okay, not yet.
No, we're not.
Excuse me.
We're not. We're
gonna
wrong.
run around the base a little
not
bit more.
wrong. We're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
we're still
Oh.
doing other
Would
things.
they
That's
want to
a-
build a
Yeah,
transporter?
okay.
But
Few ornithopters
what
hovering
we'd
around.
like to do is because we're actually going to go to a social hub later on,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd like to throw that to. Unfortunately, we can do only Twitch, so I'm sorry, YouTube. We love you over there too. It's just our bot is being a bit difficult, so we'd like to do a poll, throw that to Twitch chat only for today. Which of the social hubs you'd like to see? We have 2 available in the game right now. Right
The
now.
social hubs are going to be
One
where
is
you
Arcane,
can gather
the other
for
one is
trading,
Hardcore,
players who play are trading,
and you
and
can choose which of those
vendors?
you'd like to see today. So we give you like a few minutes to vote on that while our rock stars and
Banking
wizards
too.
behind the
Ah,
scenes
good
are
to know.
preparing that poll for you if it's not running already. And
this area is so different.
One
Like
of
the
the
other
cool
area had
things
so much
that,
desert,
they were just showing
and this
there is
one
the
pretty
vehicle
much
backup
has
tools.
just
I don't know
so
if
much
we've talked about that on
rocks.
stream too much, but once you build a sand bike or a light ornithopter, you can actually build a tool to hide it, or like, what's the lore reason, Joel?
Let's go with the Ritchie's perfected miniaturization
Sure,
technology,
sure.
and the player is able to miniaturize their vehicle, and it only works for vehicles that have
Is that,
nothing
is
in their
that like
inventory.
a social hub,
and
or what is that
two types of
enormous
vehicle: the
structure here?
sand bike and
Yes.
the light
Because
scout
holy-
ornithopter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we're flying past.
Highly recommend
Or is
always
that just a
using it,
temple?
right? When you're going to a location,
Yes.
Outpost.
land,
It just look, I mean, this is
store
a
your
whole
vehicle.
city.
Don't
This is
let
a
it get
Terrell.
destroyed by
See,
something.
Massacre
I
territory.
learned that the hard
It's a
way
whole
myself
town.
too, so I will never do that mistake ever again.
I've not seen something on the town
Lower
signs.
territory here, and we're flying over the giant power station of Misatariel.
Don't look.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but we'll let people figure that out in the game.
It looks cool. From
It is my
That's
favorite
an
thing.
outpost
Me
right in
too.
front of
It's
us.
mine
It's
too.
absolutely amazing.
Mine too.
And the
Mine
story
too.
involved in it is
So
really cool.
please look forward to it.
And there we have someone doing their vulture roll, which is very nice. Can you hit your
Just casually
scanner as
driving
well?
over a
when it's
location
flying?
like this and being like,
we
oh,
should do that.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
Okay.
so
the-
like that's vehicles obviously get like players got hand scanners probably in the beta, but now you're up to the stage where you actually have a scanner and you're scanning entire like islands by pumping C. So the idea is that again, as you progress, everything just takes a step up in how quickly you can do things. We wanted the game to feel.
Yeah, I
well,
like
you
that.
put
That
in
you
the
can
effort
scan
to
a
get this
whole. That's
vehicle.
perfect.
We're
Look
going
at
to
this.
give you the
And then you
convenience
know
of
if you
being
want
able
to
scan
land
an
or not
entire
to farm
island,
some resources.
very quickly, right?
Yeah.
This is a trade post. This is the Crossroads trade post.
Look at the poll. It's super tight. I love that. Like right now, Arcane is slightly winning. So let's go,
Harco
Harkon.
Village is cooler.
Like, I agree. I agree though. Well, both.
We're gonna
I
see some
still
footage
like
from
that you can
Harkon
actually
no matter
store
what
your
we do.
vehicle,
That's true.
right?
Both are
It's just
super
never.
cool, but
You have
I
to
do
never
like-
let it
No,
like
just
lie around.
because you're an evil
just go-
person
I
and you
am.
like Harkonnens.
I am just like
Something
evil
about
for
that
life.
whipping noise.
No, you know the fun part is I always try to go evil in like games where you have a choice, and then I end up
course.
good anyway.
Yeah,
like,
feel
because
bad
you
for
can't
the-
bring yourself to do
Feel
it.
bad for those
No.
characters,
So-
I
right?
was just,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these are the pilots. They were disabled in the beta. You may have met one at the first trade post if you were playing.
And we're going to Arcane, by the way.
We're going to
won.
Arcane?
Yes.
All
Oh,
right.
they
Okay.
fly you somewhere.
So we're going to go and visit Arakeen. All right, that's cool.
You pay
Pilot-
for
the
it.
pilot
and you-
only takes
Oh, I didn't
cash.
know that. Well, that's super
So
useful.
you can't have credit. You have to have cash. So we're heading to Arakeen.
She doesn't use it on sunscreen, that's for sure, because she was really sunburned. Like, so let's just get that out there. Yes. But yeah, you need to have the cash on you as
Yeah.
well.
One of the features in the game that we haven't really spoken about too much. I mean, well, we have a bit. We've spoken, but I don't think people picked it
Yeah,
up.
nice
in the beta.
fast
Oh, here
travel
we
with
go.
the little
I'll
clip.
let us arrive because this is cool.
I'm not sure if we need the clip because at some point, like fast traveling, like the time you fast
Arakeen.
travel, right?
And as we
I
arrive in
guess the clip
Arakeen,
is the loading screen though.
So one of the features we have in the game is the CommuniNet system. And when a player opens their CommuniNet, they can choose radio stations to listen to in the game, a la like a Fallout game or a GTA game. And this guy, Finn O'Gary, he runs this trash shop, but he actually has a show on the Atreides radio. Yeah. And if you listen to the show, it's his daughter talking about their adventures on how they got all this salvage that shows up. So it's kind of fun to just like narratively listen. You know, we tried to connect everything in the world. This is, again, I want to make this point because I feel like I see it sometimes online, and it's a little, let's say, disheartening. People, we were advertising the game and saying the word MMO, and then people were like, oh, they took all that off, and we took it off because we do feel like this is a huge world completely worth exploring with lots of other people, but it's not an MMORPG, and people were getting confused by that.
Yeah.
So we took it down. But I think it's clear when you look at places like our social hubs, our exchange system, our banking system, that we have a lot of elements from those style of games here, right? So yeah, we're looking at the
So they're
exchange
like
right
an
now.
MMO, but they're not an MMO because they're not calling it an
Players can
MMO, but
post
they're
things on the
kind of like
exchange,
an
and this is
MMO.
the banker.
Would you like to dip
One of the great things here is you can actually store items and credits, right? So say you're going to
so
take
that is the
a long
deposit bank
vacation,
where you
you're
can just
worried
put
about your
things in
base
and then you
getting
can
destroyed
just
for some
drop it
reason.
back.
You
Okay.
can actually fly to Arrakeen and dump a bunch of stuff in here.
I was actually thinking, it's like one of the great things here is
If we see
with
places like this
stars.
packed with players, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
That's also fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go in there and you see like tons of other dudes just
seen the-
roaming
yeah.
around.
Fantastic stuff. You also
and
pay
give it like
taxes here,
the lively
like,
touch. I mean, there
because
are
you need
tons of
to, like, for the
NPCs that make
bigger,
it seem lively,
subs,
right?
you
If you have the
actually
players
need
jumping
to
around.
Make sure you have your taxes paid to the
And this is where you pay. This is the
Emperor?
imperial consulate, as we call it.
Yeah.
This is where you go to pay your taxes to the
Okay, so I
Imperium.
don't go there. I don't pay my taxes.
So the first sub-fief console that you place on Arrakis, the basic one that you place in the starting area, you don't have any taxes to pay on that. But once you get a bit further into the game, and you
It's
start
only
building bigger
14
bases,
players per
you pay
shard.
taxes.
But I wonder
Once
if
you
in the social
start
hub all
expanding
shards are
that
coming
land claim,
together.
which you do through these land claim extenders, you start paying more tax. So the idea is that the larger guilds who have more members, who are more capable of achieving things in the
Yeah.
game, they have a higher tax rate because
Yeah.
they're building out larger spaces. And that's our way of making it fair for people who only play solo as well. Like, so they don't have as much tax to pay.
Woo!
The other important thing about the cities is that's where
Solo
you really
player
progress
tax
through the
evasion.
faction storylines, right? So here's where you're going to come and officially join the Atreides or join the Harkonnens and
Yep.
start vying for the Lansraad system and getting involved in the politics of the entire world.
And this is where the advanced trainers are as well.
Yeah.
For people who want to progress past the basic level of training in their particular chosen classes.
Except for Derek.
Oh, Derek, the planetologist, he's everywhere.
He's just traveling around.
He's everywhere.
He's a wandering
He's-
mentor.
he's-
You can
he's,
find him anywhere.
Yeah, he's here. He's there.
He's
He's
there.
He's everywhere.
Derek Shinar. Okay, no, enough. Sorry.
No, but you have contracts here, of course, as well,
Yes,
and
contracts,
specific
yeah.
vendors, so they have a lot of things to sell as well.
Yes.
Can I
And
go
the main
here
story
right at the
brings you to
beginning?
these
Like
locations
when
as
I
well.
get into the first outpost and I have the
So
money?
now we actually get a glimpse.
We're planning on
of-
starting a guild. We'll start on a
Yes,
shard
so-
and maybe we'll
So
start
you
a
can
guild,
use
but I
the
haven't
pilots
decided on
and the
that
trade
yet.
posts to fly to the hubs like we showed, and you use those same pilots to get back. But once you have your own Ornithopter, you can just fly to the edge of the Haga Basin map, and you'll get a prompt asking you if you'd like to go to the Overland map. And this is the Overland map.
Okay, that's
And
the
this is
Overland map.
again one of the things that I think kind of breaks us away
Oh,
from
you
the
see
standard
other
survival game.
Ornithopters
This is
flying
where
around.
we have
That's
the
kinda
ability
cute.
to infinitely expand this game, where we have multiple maps that players can go to. I think this is where you go to reach the deep desert. This is where you go to reach several of the story maps. Right now, we've landed on a fuel deposit. We're just picking up a bit of fuel, refueling our Ornithopter on there. We're able to expand here for a long time, and
Yeah,
this
they're
is kind
able
of
to add
part of
so
what
much to
again
this
we wanted
map.
to do to make this a coherent universe,
Right? And
right?
this
And make
thing,
Dune
they
feel
can
like
just add
something
whatever
that
they want.
we're going to be working on and adding
You can
to
then
for a
just
long
jump
time.
to it.
So post-launch, there will be new locations that show up here.
Yes.
We'll have events that have locations here for short durations, right? For
Yep.
to shake things up, and eventually when we release huge content drops, they'll be accessible through the Overland.
Through
map.
the Overland map.
Exactly.
I like the way of thinking.
One other thing
Chat.
that you can find.
Like the way how they want
in
to
the
do it,
Overland map,
right? I
which
mean,
also
right now
goes
it
into
seems a
the
bit
story,
empty, right?
that
You're just running with
we
your Ornithopter,
really
but they're on
would
the
like
way
to
to the
talk
deep
a little
desert.
bit more about,
But
because
like
we
this can be
haven't
flashed
really- as
out
you
like
mentioned,
indefinitely.
It takes a while to also get the story going, so people during the beta weekend haven't actually seen
Right.
much of that. So via the Overland map, you can also access some of these story dungeons, and we actually do have some footage of one of those dungeons that await you. And Joel and Scott
Can I do story dungeons
probably
solo?
give a little bit
Yeah.
of context
Big
what we've seen.
question.
Part of Act 2.
So here we're not going to spoil too much of the story, but
Nope,
this
nope,
is kind of the theme of Act 2, right? You've moved from a survivor doing the trials, now you're getting involved in the politics.
Look, the kitten is back.
Yeah, so there's a lot more interaction with NPCs, dialogue,
This game
A
looks
lot
like it's
more
going to suck a lot of my life away.
and
In
a
a
lot
good
of
way,
locations
Mount
outside the
Oliver. It's the
Hogger
good way
Basin
of
that you'll be
sucking.
going to.
One of my favorite characters too.
Yeah,
I
she's
love her. Everyone does.
In the
Kind of.
Cone of Silence.
We didn't mention the Cone of Silence, but you're inside the Cone of Silence here, and the game actually dampens all the sound outside of it when you enter, which is pretty cool.
To be distributed in the water supply of this water shipper. The act of
Chormurky for law people who understand.
What is that, by the way? I actually don't know what
The
that
Assassin's
is.
Handbook describes certain poisons. Chormurky is poison in the drink.
That's actually something I didn't know. Like I was wondering about that earlier. Like,
Time to read the books before the game
So you
comes
see you have
out,
a
so you
dialogue
understand
system in
like
the game
every
where you can
single
make
tidbit
choices
of lore,
based
and
on
you can be a
several of the things that you've
wisecracker.
done in the game as well. Your background at the start
Challenge
has some
accepted.
payoff here.
this water shipper is wealthy.
Again, it's not like, we're not making an Obsidian RPG with all of the choices that something like that has, but we're doing a level of this that's above and beyond what most survival games do, I think.
And you will be interacting with some Dune characters that people
Well, look
are
at her
familiar
last
with.
name.
Yeah,
Dune
yeah.
fans probably recognize already that last name.
Yep.
I have
All
no
right, so
clue, but thank you.
we're skipping ahead here. We've jumped to the part of the mission where you're heading towards the Water Shipper's Mansion, which is in the Imperial Basin just outside of Arakeen. The player is being sent there to assassinate and poison this water shipper on behalf of the Lara Tuek. And so
That's close
we
enough.
come to this
The game will
new
be
level
available on console
on
as
the
well. You
Overland
can play
map.
this with controller.
Guarded. Those lights
Yeah,
are
so
powerful.
your job is
If
to
they spot you,
infiltrate,
you'll be
Yes.
trapped in
Yeah,
it.
she's talking and
Found
explaining the
Believer,
mission.
this is definitely
but I can't hear it, so I'm
scratching
just-
the what's human-ish,
But,
for sure.
One of the things we wanted to do is make sure all the abilities still work in these. So it is
Yes.
still very sandboxy.
Yeah.
There will always be multiple approaches. You
Yeah.
know, if you have a Shigglewire Claw, you can use that to grappling hook over some areas. If not, then you're gonna have to be a little bit more stealthy and avoid the searchlights.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where our philosophy is like we give people all these tools, but it's a sandbox. Play the way you
I
want
just
to
want
play.
to play with the sniper, if I'm honest with you.
Here, it's we have
saw
to
there's
find a
a
guy
sniper.
called Yargan,
Dew harvester
who's her
in the yard.
contact.
He's supposed to be waiting for you by one of the storage sheds.
And so like it's like we're quite nice to people. You might get spotted, but you can escape the lights quickly.
Yeah.
That's the one we
I'm
found
not,
here.
you can read the dialogue here. It's fun. One of those ones.
And again, depending on your background, they actually get different choices to
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I had the
to
sniper for the
dialogue.
beta and it was
Character
awesome.
creation
I
is
really
important.
wanted it.
Why don't we just have this conversation in that spotlight over there?
This guy's he's a grumpy
I
guy.
agreed to help Alara with this. It was because her old man got me out of a few scrapes back in the day. But if you get caught, we ain't met.
Especially when he talks about the place.
Got it?
You'll appreciate this option.
Good.
I
Then ask you.
Can you tell me about this place?
It's like
This
so
is something I would
which
never
background?
choose. I just go like, I can do this. I don't need the
Which
info.
background do you have to get that option though?
Just have to buy heavy
That
darts
one's for everyone for free.
It's for everyone. That's for free. Okay, there you go. I love that we have it in a video too.
There's definitely a lot I need to still learn about Dune that I can fast track through
There's
it because I
so
want to
many
beat the whole
little Easter
story,
eggs
right?
and fun things that you also wrote, like especially also for like
Beat the story,
weapon,
learn every class.
Yeah,
descriptions
weapon
and
descriptions,
things.
items.
That's a
Super
good time.
fun. Like everything's connected. Like for those of you who do like lore and who know Dune lore as well, you will find a lot of connections. But also for the ones who don't,
It's been a while.
Yeah.
it's super fun to just.
Follow the path.
He's also
Find
explaining
things.
the different ways that you can approach this quest right now. So he's sort of explaining to you, there's like two paths that you can take. Like you don't have to go this way, you don't have to go that way. Here's how you can get in. There's how you can get in. Right.
What
so
if you want to do like
as
your
a player,
very
you can
own
approach
thing
this
and go,
again
like,
in kind of that
stupid?
sandbox approach. It's like. Again, I don't want to oversell it. It's not an immersive sim where you have
Yeah.
like the Dishonored level of,
Yeah.
but you can definitely find alternate paths into the mansion to achieve your mission. And I think that like a shout out to the story content team with Bernard and the boys, as I call them. They've done a great job with these, setting them
Yeah,
up.
the Bene
And
Gesserit,
here's what
that-
Scott was
that's me,
talking about,
chat.
where
Just
you,
rush
you know,
through it.
like
Done.
I've set the game up in this way. I'm a Bene Gesserit. I'm just going to stun this guy, and then I'll be able to walk past him, and he won't even notice me. He won't call up. He won't call the guards because he doesn't see me, right? And so you can use your abilities, your skills that you've picked up in the game to just pass through these areas, and yeah, it's kind of fun, right? And we just wanted to show that we have more than just the basic survival game. There's way more going on here.
Yeah. Especially, like, I think it takes about, if you, let's assume you ignore everything else, because there's a lot of choices for you, how you want to approach Dune Awakening and what there's to do. But let's assume you're only going for the main story and like those cinematics and things. So it takes you, I did talk to Niels about it as well, it takes about 30 hours until the story really gets going.
Okay,
Playing
30
by
hours
yourself,
until the
just
story really gets
experiencing
going.
all the survival
I kind of
elements
like, I
and
want to
going
play
at
Dune a
it
bit
alone.
more like
Yeah,
the
probably
story
30
game
hours
it
to
is,
get to
right? To
part
really
2.
just beat the
Yeah,
story.
I mean, it's deliberately like.
And then explore some of the end
defensive
game.
about Act 1, but the first part of the game is deliberately somewhat light, just to give people that, like, learn the world, acclimatize yourself, like, follow up on the Fremen. You have the Fremen trials, and it's super interesting, and then we start introducing and layering the politics of the universe and more of this stuff, and more of your personal story, like, what's going on, why are you the one being asked to do this, what's happening, right?
And ultimately, it is a survival game first, right?
Yes.
So the player needs to learn how to survive in Arrakis, right? And it's a very harsh environment. There's a lot of mechanics to figure out, and then you have to make your way through there and figure out how to get outside of the Haga Basin, right, before you can experience more of the politics
Poison
and
the water
intrigue that are
supply.
going on.
Exactly. And I really love that we have, I mean, the beginning of the game
Probably
is
the most
kinda,
evil thing you can do
story
in
driven,
Dune
right? You get context to where
poison the
you,
water supply.
well, a little bit of context what's actually happening. You have a person that talks to you and helps you at the beginning, and then, as you mentioned, it goes more into learning the actual mechanics and the tutorialization of the game, and we give you time to get a bit acquainted with everything, or not everything, but a lot of the things, like the basic mechanics, and then we like approach you again with the story.
I know, Chad, he watched us through the trans eye.
I love this guy, but we're cutting now because we're not going to spoil too much of what's going on.
No, exactly. So obviously we don't want to show too much. There's more to this dungeon.
Sniper one-shot
What we're going to
through
do
shield,
now,
good
though,
question.
is we're actually going to watch another video that's going to lead us into our next segment. So enjoy.
Cool.
Okay, now this should be the PvP, right? So Deep Desert.
Power. Given the right leader,
Or are they going to talk about mid? No,
you can
it might be
move the
mid-game first
planet.
before Deep Desert.
In Dune Awakening, your path to power leads you through the great houses. But only accomplished guilds may earn their place among the Atreides or Harkonnen. Swear your allegiance
Solo player.
and contribute to their rise in desert power. The pledge is only the beginning. You have come far, and now it's time to take control of the Lansraad. The Lansraad is the council of great houses that make decisions that impact all the players on all the servers in your world. Your goal, and that of your guild, is to secure their votes so that your faction, the Harkonnen or Atreides, can take control.
Okay.
To secure their votes and sway them to your side, you must complete specific house requirements on the Lansraad board. Alone or together with your guild, your efforts can move the needle. Be the first to fulfill a house requirement to not only secure their vote, but also reap their many rewards.
Interesting, if you and House Harkon choose the same reward
Whether
and
you
try to kind of
enjoy
knock it out.
PvE or PvP, there are many paths to victory.
See?
If you prefer the relative safety of the shield wall, there are many activities that will not put you into direct conflict with other players, while still contributing to your faction's rise to power.
And you can get the skins.
House
right? By helping
Torvald
with
wants you
PvE.
to eliminate sandflies. Rush in, or pick off the deserters one by one with your sniper
So
rifle.
that's like stronghold raiding for solo
House
PvP
Rashis
player.
wants a
PvE players,
delivery of ground cars.
right?
Join up with friends and build strongholds for large-scale production and deliver them safely to the House representative by ground or air. Large-scale production is costly and will require a lot of resources. To be able to craft certain high-tier items, you will also need the most sought-after resource of all: spice. You can buy spice from spice merchants
There you go.
or on the Player Run exchange. And it can even be found in smaller pockets behind the shield wall. But to collect industrial quantities, you must venture into the unknown.
That's
The deep
PvP.
desert beckons. Here, violent Coriolis storms sweep across the vast expanse of sand, resetting the map every week, revealing new resources to mine and points of interests to explore. This ever-changing environment offers endless exploration, but also endless conflict. Each house in the Lansraad desires a specific control point in the deep desert. Seize it and hold it over time to gain their vote. Fortify it and be ready for a fight. Other players will soon come to take it from you.
I mean, this you could technically do solo, depending on how early you are, because the longer you hold it,
The
the
deep
more
desert
points you get.
is also
So even if you
home
hold it like
to
for a minute,
frequent
you might get
spice
some points
blows,
already, even as a solo
offering
player.
large quantities of the precious melange. You need a lot of spice. Once you've located a spice blow, move your harvesters in place to collect. Just be ready to defend it with your life.
I like that you have to build the harvester, I assume, and someone has to drive the harvester, right? I mean, the PvP looks extraordinary if you have people to PvP with. Like, right? That it just looks great, honestly. And I would be really intrigued to like do it with a team of people.
After a week of politics, manufacturing, and conflict, one side emerges victoriously.
I mean, you might also not care who actually
the Harkonnen
wins,
have
you know,
seized the Lansraad.
the Lansraad, and just
And
play
the
for
leaders
yourself.
of the player
and chill.
guilds who contributed to their victory all get to vote for a decree that will impact everyone on a server belonging to that world. They
Because
choose
no one
to
says that the
unlock
decree is gonna be bad
exclusive
for you,
weapon
right?
imports rights. By decree of the Lansraad Council, under the seal of His Imperial Majesty, a trade consortium has been authorized to visit Arrakis, providing Harkonnen players with exclusive access to a unique weapons vendor
Oh,
in Harko Village.
so if the Harkonnen win, only they get the vendor.
As the Harkonnen Landsraad term begins, the race for control in the next term.
Oh, GG. Someone pulled the plug. It wasn't me, Chad. That's the stream. Someone like in the live stream.
Welcome back. No technical problems at all. It's all fine. No one would have noticed if you didn't say anything, Scott.
Sorry. That's my job.
Pretty sure I couldn't hear it, but I'm pretty sure it cut off mid-VO.
It
So.
probably did, yes. I can
Everyone
hear
could
it.
join the
But
same faction
video is
and then
gonna
do
be,
minimum and get the bonus for everyone
available
every
after the stream
cycle
anyway,
if
so you
there's
can
not
watch
an
it
auto
in
balance
all its
feature.
glory. Lansraad. Talking about Lansraad. So let's go to the next segment.
Yeah.
Endgame and Landsraad. So we know people have, of course, expectations of what the Endgame and Landsraad, and especially Deep Desert, looks like, and what it's for, and how people will use the Deep Desert, and how it works. A lot of those things. But I think before we go into more details and show some really exciting gameplay as well,
Yeah, show it live,
Joel,
please.
I think it'd be cool to talk about the vision for what the Endgame is supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I think, like, going back to when I joined the project, like, so this is 5 years ago, right? And we were talking about what is a good survival game, like, because Dune, we were making a Dune survival game, and we were talking about what is the vision for an end game in Dune, And the kind of the goal and the idea, at least in the beginning, was like we started with, hey, like you start by surviving in the desert, and it's that raw nature versus, you know, mankind kind of thing. It's the sun, it's the sandworms, it's the storms. But then you move into this new mode of survival, which is political survival, which is the end game of the game needs to be about these big forces, right? The Imperium is made up of the great houses, the Lansraad, the Emperor, the Spacing Guild, Chome, all of these things have an influence, and you as a player are just a small cog in the machine, but we want you to be able to feel like you're participating in this big umbrella system. And so we started there, and then we talked about, like, there's an element of, like, I think very technical game design here where we talk about player activity cycles through the week.
The question is, how much influence can you
I was
have?
looking at, like, games like Rust. You know, Rust
Does
has
it
their
feel
server
meaningful
resets, which is great for, like, people to start building up, and people really enjoy that cycle. But a lot of people also love having their stuff and not losing it. And so we talked about, like, okay, what about a place, and in Dune it's perfect, right? You have these Coriolis storms, and there's scenes in the book where the sand is just tearing apart cliff faces and ripping down the things in the desert and revealing things from beneath the sand. And so we said, okay, what if we had a map, the deep desert, and in the deep desert, the landscape changes every week. How does that affect gameplay? And then we started there and we talked about, okay, what about if there's a cycle of events that we want players to go through? And again, this is a high-level design.
We might actually have an infographic or a visual asset for that, a week cycle of...
Oh, do we?
Yep.
Cool. Fun. You guys are on top of things. I know nothing.
No, not that one.
Sorry. That's
Not this one.
Not that one. But okay. Either way, I can
Maybe
just
it's
keep,
not right. Maybe
I
we
can
didn't.
just, I can just keep talking.
Yeah.
Just
Go for it.
It's fine.
Go
Sorry,
for it.
everyone. I know it's just
Go for
boring
it.
old Joel. But like we wanted to approach this right. So we were like, okay, what if there's a map that resets and the map changes every week so that it's an infinitely explorable space? And we worked backwards from there and we said, how do we build a lot of our game systems towards this? So we started with the idea of, yes, the map resets. When would we want to reset the map? Let's say we reset it on the lowest player activity day of the week, right? Which tends to be a Tuesday night or a Wednesday in these kind of online games. And then we're like, okay, and then there's this activity we call scouting and cartography. And then we built a game mechanic around cartography and scouting, which I think we're going to show in a little bit. And that is, and maybe you saw it, we definitely tutorialized it in the beta, you reveal parts of the map. And then we made it so that you can save those maps and sell them to other players. So we create a loop there for players who are scouts, and that happens, let's say, you know, in a player activity week, it happens during the low ebb. The deep desert gets revealed. Everybody needs information. How do we make information a commodity? We create a cartography and a scouting system. Then once that information
as a solo player,
is
you can
gathered,
go into
people share it with their friends and their guilds. Then they start setting up what we call a logistics plan. How am I going to control the spaces in the deep desert that I want to control? What is my guild looking for? Are we looking for spice? Are we looking for unique schematics? Are we going after shipwrecks? Are we going after the ecology labs that have been revealed? Like, what are we doing this week? So then they go set up. And then the weekend, which is when the highest player activity count is, that's when people are online. And that's where people really participate in the activities in the deep desert, whether that is running ecology labs with their friends or shipwrecks or fighting over, like, control points in the deep desert. And then after the weekend, I should say, on top of this as an umbrella is the Lansraad. And the Lansraad are asking you to do activities that take place both in the deep desert, but also outside of the deep desert. Exactly. There's a lot of PvE stuff in there. And then at the end of that activity cycle, everybody votes. It sets a server-wide change, like a worldwide, I think we should say in our terminology. It changes every rule set in the world can be changed by the Lansraad. And then the Coriolis storm happens again on a Tuesday, and we start over again with a new weekly cycle. And this is kind of the
sounds like the Video Black
vision
Desert,
and
which
dream
is
for how the
massive
end game should play out and how
I
we
think
would
it's
like
a good
it to work.
comparison.
And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about how that we've set everything up for this to be the case, but of course, no plan survives first contact with players. So another point I would like to make is just we're a live game. We'll continue to tweak and update
Not forget
these things.
there are also dungeons.
But let's maybe
we haven't
look
heard
at
much
talk
about.
it. Yeah?
Yes,
supposedly there are dungeons to do.
Some activities that you might be wanting to do. So we have, like, actually a team here that will now go into the desert.
Okay, so we've gone through the Overland map.
Yeah,
we're in the shield wall, which is the southern part of the deep desert.
It's the PvE area.
Correct.
so to speak.
Yeah.
This
So
is the PvE
it was,
space.
It was important for us so that people that are scared of PvP or reluctant to get engaged with it, right, that they had a place in the deep desert that they could go to without, instantly getting killed as soon as you're coming through, like in warping in, right, gate camping or whatever from other games. And this is also where you set up your base of operations.
Yes.
The very first area, because the deep desert is gigantic. There's no water here.
Yes.
And you need to have the logistics set up. And
If the deep
like,
desert
you
is
can,
gigantic,
you can go there by yourself. Like
could
I
you,
fly there
could you
on
get
beta.
away with not really
try
meeting
to stay away from
players?
people because, as
You
we
know?
said, we're not great at PvP necessarily.
People call it ratting.
Yeah,
Right?
ratting.
People, you can go in and rat.
Oh, I'm totally right.
Raid.
Absolutely.
But just to point out one thing here, because these guys are using. So again, coming back to like how do we get towards this vision? We started with how do you build this is going to get wiped every week. How do we encourage people to build bases? Well, first of all, we created this blueprinting system. You bring the diagram of your base, you place it out, and you build it quickly, right? This is very fast. It doesn't take very long when you're with a few friends. You get a base put down.
They need to
you
introduce
build it up
this,
quickly. This is part of the logistics
to build
cycle
the
of
whole
the deep
blueprint.
desert.
You can either bring the resources from Haga Basin and all the
That's
vehicles that
something
you're
that
bringing with you, or you can harvest. And
Once human have.
there's quite a bit of resources in the shield wall, so you can set this up.
So this is what's happening here. We're building a forwarding base.
Exactly. I was going to say that this is obviously a forwarding base because it is kind of very boxy again compared to like the actual home bases that we saw earlier. Because this is all about efficiency, right?
Yes.
And like fitting your the storages and the all the machines that you need. Now my brain just stopped working. Fabricators. Thank you.
Yeah, and we made a change.
I like that building
or not a
costs are
change,
minimal.
it's just
Not only
the building
minimal,
costs are
resource
different in the
gathering
deep
is
desert,
also
so it costs
maximal.
half as much to
Yes.
build
Right?
everywhere.
You're
Building
getting
is
so much
faster.
You're
resource
breaking
from
things
minimum
down.
from
Just
like
because we know you're
minimum
going
effort.
to be redoing this every week.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
going to be some loss, right? So we're trying to make it easy and accessible in the ways that we can, while still keeping the threat there.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. You
And
need
the
a one
intensity
button
of threat.
craft
Yes.
everything kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's it, right? Like the deep desert
Instead of
is,
having
is
to
a little
interact
bit
with every
about that
panel.
tension as well. That feeling of like, so we're
Exactly.
building here. It's the PVE area. I expect people to build their primary like weekly base in the PVE area, and then maybe set out some logistics bases so that they can do things like refining spice. And that's where it becomes an interesting kind of like, we'll see how people play out these scenarios in the actual deep desert in the game. But this is kind of the expected behavior. This is what we hope people will do. And we've tried to build all the mechanics into place so that people can
Really
do
sounds
this.
exhausting. Well,
Right,
I
and
don't
that's
think
been
people are
a
going to
large
build
part of
this
it.
big of bases,
You also see co
Melissimo, in
building
the
here. There's
weekly
actually
reset
several
area.
people working on
Yeah,
this.
everyone's working together, right?
Yeah,
And
which
that's
is super nice
that's
too.
the guild focus as well. Like
Exactly.
But
it
if
is a
you're doing
multiplayer
this
game.
together with a guild,
it's really important
it
to
goes
make
really
sure that
quick,
people can play
right?
together and do things together. And I think it like the fun part in this game and this style of game is that it extends beyond like the traditional MMO experience of like we can fight things together, right? And we can role play together, but you're not building things together, you're not crafting vehicles together, right? We have those options, which is nice.
Exactly.
And it's just cool to see how quick you can use the blueprint system to get like a gigantic base, right?
Yep.
Even though it's utilitarian, right? But yeah, it's
one
does
click
what it
build will be
needs,
bad
and
at Deep
it's,
Desert. Well,
yeah, it's
maybe
quite
not
impressive.
in the PvP
I know
area,
that
but at
people are
least
also
in the
wondering that you
PvE
won't
area,
be
you should be able to one click
you
build.
know, copy that your setup inside. So this is literally the blueprint is for the building itself. So everything. Inside.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You still have to put the placeholders in.
So we're behind the shield wall. I think we've just left the base now,
Yeah, we're actually
and we're
just showing a little bit of the
Yeah.
PvE area here.
So this
as
is
well.
this is behind the shield wall, and then you come out into the deep desert. And this is like I think. Oh yeah, sorry. Behind the shield wall, there's also PVE elements here. This is the PVE space.
Yeah.
So there are things like shipwrecks that you can raid. There are like eco labs behind here. So there is a section of the deep desert. I know people are really worried about doing PvP. There is a whole section here. It's 24 kilometers long, where you can actually go and like do the PvE part. And we're about to see. Well, this will take a few seconds.
We're actually
survey.
We're in the middle of
just
the survey.
surveying the-
So now we're surveying the land in this section,
See,
and
there
we'll see
is
the
a lot
segment
of
reveal
PvE.
itself.
It's not all doom
And
and
this is like
gloom that PvE
one
is
of the
forgotten.
PvE segments of the deep desert. And what you'll see here is that we've surveyed one square, and just to give some context, that's one of 81 squares within this map. So there are 81 of these squares. It's huge.
That's quite big.
There
We're
are
actually also seeing the sync chart that you mentioned earlier
Yes.
as well
Yes.
come into play.
So now I don't know whose name it is, but
The
Whichever
Deep
player
Desert
it is
PvP zone
crafting
has
a-
rating, yes.
they
Otherwise, you
have
can't raid a
surveyed,
base.
Now
Only
Now
in
they're
the
going
Deep
to
Desert.
craft a sync chart They have crafted a sync chart of the deep desert. It tells you in the information which sector of the deep desert,
81 squares
who
of deep
created
desert,
it,
yep.
how long ago it was created, so you understand whether the information's out of date or in date. They're going to share that sync chart with their friends.
With 40 players in a
And then their
shard,
friends,
maybe
hopefully,
you're
will be
not
able to
really
switch
going to
camera
meet people that
perspective and see
quick.
their friend apply the sync chart.
I mean, I don't know how many
Shows them
people are in
how
the
to
deep
explore.
desert
So this
zone.
is that cartography look.
You could go out with like a
Oh.
really quick ornithopter.
Look at this. That's the deep desert over there.
Oh, sure.
To the left.
But you can go out with like an exploration kit, right? That's
Yeah.
really fast. That
Yes.
You can hide,
go
you can
around.
definitely
You don't
hide.
have much harvesting abilities, right? And then
Yeah.
you scout the area, bring it back, and then your base can roll out with your transport ornithopters, your harvesters,
Exactly.
sand crawlers.
Depending what your plan is for the day.
I mean, you pretty much have to
Which
go through the
doesn't
deep
necessarily have
desert,
to be
find a
PvP.
good
There's actually a
tile,
lot
and
of
then
other
you have
things,
to
you know.
mobilize
exactly.
your
I-
forces.
I expect
The deep
people
desert.
in guilds to be figuring things out and how they're going to work together to do these things. But there's roles here, right? Like again, we tried to really build this game with different roles for different people within guilds.
Exactly.
So the idea is, oh yeah, maybe I'm just the scout, and that's what I do because I hate, going into fights. But I go out, I bring back the information. Then people who like building bases are planning like what our logistics are going to be and what we're going to be doing this week in the deep desert. What do we need to harvest? What do we need for our crafting? Are there uniques that we're looking for? Are there specific uniques? I think one of the really important
Yeah,
points
it's
about the
kind
deep
of
desert
like
is that
DayZ.
like
PvP is rare
the unique
unless you go to high
schematics,
loot
the Imperial
areas.
permits, which maybe people saw,
Kind
the top
of.
ones.
That's what it seems like.
They're on a limited loot setup, so you don't get the same ones every week, and the layouts of the deep desert change. Here we see the trading system. The sync chart's been traded.
And those schematics you can only make a certain amount of times.
Yeah, and now we're going to consume the sync
You can
chart.
consume the sync chart, and then
And then
for
we're going
him,
to
the
open
deep
our map
desert
and
part
see
of the
that
map
the
unlocks.
sector has
Hi,
been created, the
interesting.
same sector that was sync charted. So this is kind of cool. You can create copies of this and pass it off to your guild. You can create
Weekly
copies and
stuff
sell
is
them on the
only
exchange
endgame
to other
PvP.
players as well.
Yes, and while
And some
now they're
endgame
actually
PvP
building a
farming. Well,
transport
that's
ornithopter,
a
we can actually
Ornithopter
quickly
carrier
talk
chat.
about
Look
the
at that
Killer
huge
Storm
thing.
in combination with the map, because we actually have a visual asset here
Yeah.
that shows how they can look like on
Yeah,
the
so
map.
we can talk about the rotation. So this is
Yes.
like, so let's see that we're going to see 3 weeks of Coriolis Storm changes to the map. So this is week 1. And then we move to, and you can see that there's like one eco lab, a shipwreck, and a cave there, right? And a small base. And
So
some
that would be
spice
one tile of the
floors that have
81
been marked.
tiles.
And then to the next week,
And then a week
the
later, it
layout
looks
has
different.
changed. Where
Same
things
tile.
are is different. There's a control point now in the bottom left. There's an eco lab in a different place, and a shipwreck that's been uncovered.
And there will be different
And 2
loot
spice
and
locations,
different
I think.
Different
schematics
loot
that you
in all
get.
of them.
The purple locations
And then
are spice.
we go one more week again, and now you can see that this is a bit larger. There's another
Ark, they
control
just
point. It's a
mentioned
different
PvE
house
places in
control
the deep
point now.
desert.
Different spaces on the
mentioned.
map. A couple of eco labs this time.
There are a couple of
4 or
tiles
5 caves
which are PvE
and
only.
the shipwreck. So you can sort of see how this changes and how this loot encourages exploration for people each week.
And that's one tile.
That's one section.
One of
81st.
One of 81.
Yeah.
But I will say
we go.
this: it's a very big desert with a lot of space.
Yes.
So there's not all the tiles are that populated each week. So people aren't like, oh, there's not 15 eco labs in every square, right?
No.
Like it's
Yes.
it's
more
big
sparse.
barren place. And
I mean,
this is
the
also
thing
like
is, if you're a
important
solo
because
player,
if we want people to
I would
fight
just go into the
over
deep
things,
desert on Monday.
we actually need to draw them to the same places
Right?
to fight
Yes.
over specific things in PvP.
Yes.
I mean, the loot
So
respawns.
for the ones who actually
in
do
these
want the
labs.
PvP, they have a place to go where they know
So
there's
I
probably others
just
will.
wait for Monday.
Okay, so now we have
Then
a
I
transport
grab my
ornithopter. This is the
ornithopter and I
largest
go looting.
flying vehicle that
Right?
you can craft in the game. And this may be my
Pretty much.
favorite game mechanic because the
Yeah,
transport
Monday morning.
ornithopter can pick things up.
Or like,
And I
yeah.
love it because it can pick up almost anything that is a vehicle,
Yes.
right, in the game. So
One of the things you'll see in the mid game is like the
How
buggies
large is
really
the
hard
PvE
to
area
get
itself?
everything, right? Even though it mines
95%
so
of the
much
game
more
is
than you can ever
PvE,
possibly
and only
mine
the
yourself.
deep desert, and not
But
all the
it's-
parts
it's
of
a
the
pain,
deep
right,
desert
to
is
get it up on
PvP.
the shield wall or to get it out here.
So a good tactic with the buggy though is to use it as storage and use the transport
Yes.
ornithopter to pick
Yeah.
it up and carry it. Are we going to show an example of carrying? I guess we are.
Yes, we
Yeah,
are,
cool.
because
Yes.
what we're actually preparing for here is a spice harvesting mission.
So the team's going out to do some
yes.
spice harvesting. Cool.
So we're actually gonna
okay.
pick up a
Yeah.
harvester.
So now we're coming out into what I call the real deep desert,
Yeah,
right?
Monday
this is
to Wednesday
actually
is
what
best
you
time
think
for
of when
solo.
you think
Exactly.
of Arrakis from the movies, right? So this,
I'm
this
pretty
is,
sure,
so,
like,
yeah, we just got the nice
I,
tutorial.
obviously a
pop-up
lot of
talking
people
about
like
the
to be
deep
doom
desert.
and gloom.
So this is
but
the
as a solo
Arrakis
player, you're going to
that we
find your
know
ways
from the
to
films.
enjoy this.
So Haga Basin is
PvP
like
endgame,
and
plus PvE,
it's taking a lot
obviously,
of the information that
regardless.
we have from the books and about like the different biomes and things and making it into a truly sort of interesting PvE experience. But this is the true deep desert of Arrakis. This is the place where people are scared to go. This is where the Fremen live. We're passing outside the shield wall now. This is where the War of Assassins and the PvP is allowed to happen.
Spice blow.
And you can see a spice blow in the distance, which draws people from miles
I love
around
that
to
this
go
is
there,
like
right?
visible
And
because
I do
everyone
want
that's
to say this
actually in
section
here
here
is
if
going to be
you
like, wow,
turn
shit,
the camera
we
right
gotta
and
go
left,
there.
you can see that we
now.
have the shield wall. It goes. This is 24 kilometers long, and you can't see people all the way along. So people who are like nervous about going into the deep desert because they're worried about the PvP is. I think there's like an element from my end, a designed moment that we've talked about on this project quite often is like you come to the edge of this vast ocean and you dip your toe in the water and you're a little bit scared of sharks, but you see something in the distance and you think, I can make it. I can get there and I can get back. And the first time it's scary. And you feel that tension, and the second time, and the third time, but you feel that tension, but you actually start doing it, right? And I get that people worry about toxic behaviors and ganking and so forth, but we tried to build a space where you can get away from people as well.
Correct, yeah. So I think that's really important to talk
What
about.
I wonder is, if I go into a
in
lab,
Dune, you were given
could
the
I hold a
tools to get
corridor
away,
against multiple
right?
people?
Like if overwhelming amounts
Right?
of people come after you, maybe you can't quite get away, but that's generally not going to happen. So a lot of it is more about PvP is about controlling
Like
a
if I'm
point
being attacked by 3
and,
people,
like,
but I'm in
having to
a
give up
lab
that
down
point that
below,
you don't feel like
sniper in
fighting.
hand,
Funny over
my
things
skills
instead of
ready,
being down
yeah,
saying
I take
stuff.
them all 3
So
down.
on the Lansraad here, this is kind of interesting, right? So you can see the Lansraad's in the state of like, if we claim this as the Atreides, we're going to win what we call a Sisselrad. And a Sisselrad means that we're going to get the voting power for the week. So a Sisselrad is when we can complete a row. So normally, if you were Harkonnen and Atreides in this situation, you'd both be fighting over this particular control point because you really don't want the other one to win for the week. But normally, like it's kind of you're always blocking each other and causing like the other team to have to, go back and focus on
You gotta
filling out a
consider,
row
you
or
don't
trying
need
to fill out as many
to
squares as
harvest
possible. So we're
quantities
trying
of
to take
spice
the
unless you want to
House
be
Hagel
listed
owns this
first
control point
in
the
these
deep desert.
leaderboards.
We're in the deep desert as
Right?
Atreides taking over this control point.
And that's
on their
anyways gonna
behalf.
be the big
And you can
guilds.
see it's just this.
So you as a solo
This,
player, you just
control
want to
point, it's
join
a
a
place that you have
faction
to
with a
defend in
big
the deep
guilds in
desert.
it
It'll
and
draw
profit from them doing this.
Other people, and
Right?
it will earn you points over time. It's a classic
While the
control
big
point
guilds are
in the deep
doing
desert.
exactly this, you as the
One
solo
other
player are
thing,
going to
just
do
if you
some
stop for a
PvE,
second
enjoy
here.
your life,
One other thing
maybe
I just want to
dip
point
in
out,
your
one of the
toe a
feedbacks
little
we had in
bit
beta was about
into the
team markers.
PvP, but you're still
You
going to
can
get
see
all
our
the
new team marker
benefits.
system in the game here.
If
It's
you're a big guild, if you're
deliberately
faction
only
dominates.
for the 4-person groups, I will not allow this to be in the game for guilds because I want, like, especially I know people talk about Zergs. I think when Zerg guilds and there's 40 people attacking each other on the screen, if everybody can see who's in their guild, it's very easy to target the people that you're trying to Zerg. But if it's just the group, then it's much more difficult for Zergs to actually not do friendly fire.
Yeah.
And there is full friendly fire on guilds.
I mean, they can do it if they work for it, right? They can
need a
make sure
guild to
everyone
participate in
has the same
Landsraad. You can make
swatches
a
and the
guild
same
to
armor.
solo
So there is
But
ways to
somebody
do
could
it, but
figure out
they
what
have to
you're
work.
dressed like
Can
and
participate in the
infiltrate.
Lansraad as a
Yeah,
solo player
exactly.
and
So
reap the
that's-
We
benefits.
didn't want to take
No
away.
artificial.
Yeah, it's been one of my. Let's say I will say this is one of those things where I have had to fight with a lot of developers on this project about this. There's a crashed ship down there, by the way. It's kind of cool that you could also go loot that. But it's like
I got
giving
eaten by
too
a
much
worm
information for free to
in
players
this
actually
scenario.
limits our ability for people to have politics and intrigue.
Yeah.
Because if I
When
can
I
see your
went
name
for a
over
wreck
your
in the
head,
middle.
I know who you are, right? But if I don't know who that is, and you dress in my clothing and you walk into my base and you follow me around, it's like I might just think that you're my friend from the guild, when in fact you're just trying to infiltrate. And we want to allow that possibility because that is Dune. At its core, that is how things work. There are plans within plans. There are
I
groups
want to see how
within
big the
groups.
worm is in the deep desert.
I remember that from
think
early on, where
normal
your
size,
kinda
which is
lowest
ginormous.
information has to be
Oh
earned.
yeah, for sure.
That was a very early thing.
Can I just point out that we just
Very
crossed
cool.
a server border?
Yeah.
Our game has server meshing tech in the deep desert. And it's been a very painful technical thing to get working.
Yes.
But we just crossed a server border. You probably might not have even noticed any sort of hitching or anything because it's very seamless.
Spice
and,
field
again,
just
shout
looks
out to our
amazing.
technical team who've been working
Like
their
from the
butts off
spice perspective
to get this in good shape. But we just crossed a server border from one server to another, and it's basically not visible, which is great.
Yeah, what we call like authority transfer.
Authority transfer between servers, yeah. So now we're picking up a random sandcrawler and bringing it out to the spice harvesting field. So, I mean, I love that. I love that
That looks
mechanic. I think
great,
it's fantastic
honestly.
fun in the game,
It
just picking
does
things up.
look
The
great.
transport ornithopter is quite slow.
Yeah, it's very slow.
So it is dangerous to go out just in the transport ornithopter.
And you can, of course, sit in the harvester
Yeah.
while
Does
being
the
transported.
layer
It's
have to
really fun
drive the
too.
You can also,
harvester,
I think
or
the
is the
transport
harvester
has like
harvesting
5
alone?
seats as well, so
Yes,
there's
yeah.
you can bring a whole little group with you.
Or have them standing on top.
Kidnap other
Yeah.
enemy harvesters as well, which is also super fun to do.
But we should talk about spice, because
Yes.
that's really ties the
I mean, let's
entire
be real.
in-game
Most people
together,
are just
right?
gonna ignore each
All
other
the tier
and do their own shit.
the tier 6
right?
or the last
the
like,
actual
set of
PvP is
resources,
going to be
right?
people.
Everything
Oh no,
requires
someone
spice
is doing
to
this.
craft
Let's
it.
leave
So
them alone
your
and find
in-game
another
gear,
spice
Your
thingy.
in-game tools,
Yep.
in-game vehicles.
Everything,
There'll always be
everything,
the
yeah,
weirdos,
everything in
but
game
most people are
requires
just gonna-
spice for crafting, essentially. And also, we mentioned the Lansraad. The Lansraad has always the center square of the Lansraad requires spice to win. It's important. The Sandcrawler is like, it's not the full harvesters that you've seen in the films. Those are owned by the big houses. But as you can see here, this is like a little raid event. We just placed a thumper on the sand. We have a guy on a bike. He's
Exactly.
riding around dropping thumpers.
You should also hear it actually on stream now. You hear
The thumpers are really important because sandworms roam the deep desert. They will be coming, and you need to be placing out thumpers to distract them away from that sandcrawler while it's harvesting spice. And you want to keep it on the spice as long as possible, just like in the book. You want to stay on the spice, earn as much profit as you possibly can. You can even see the
he's
trail that
actually
the
harvesting
sandcrawler is
it. That's
leaving in
kinda
the
cool.
spice as it sucks up spice into its little vacuum pack.
Yeah, so the sandworm stops being, it not stops, but it's less of a threat as you're going throughout Hogga Basin into the mid-game. But then
There it
at
is.
the
It
end
ate
game,
the
right, there's sandworms all over the
stomper.
place, and it becomes a threat again, especially when you're trying to get spice from the sands.
So yeah, so you saw the sandworm just took that thumper. Hopefully our intrepid thumper placers have put out more of them.
They're totally well organized. They have like several people placing out thumpers.
Yeah.
They have like the scouts here in the air that we see as well, which is really cool to see.
Looking for worms.
Plus
God, warm
our
PTSD, Chad.
transporter
Definitely
being
warm
ready for
PTSD.
any kind of danger that might occur.
And so as soon as the sandcrawler, like the person driving the sandcrawler knows that they're the target of the sandworm, they need to radio in and be like, get me off the sand. So that the
I
transporter
wonder
ornithopter
if
will
as
pick
a
them up.
solo
But
player,
at the
I could
moment,
just
think
go
we're
here
using
now, sneak up on
the
these guys
thumpers
with a rocket
effectively as a
launcher,
team. And this is the part of it, right?
their
Like, this is
spice gatherer
why
with a
the
rocket
deep desert
launcher and
is
explode it.
very Dune. I don't think you have this experience in any other game.
Right?
And the idea was to create this. So if you are here with your guild, there's something to do and it's fun and it's interesting. But
Or
then
how
other
much would
players
it
might
take
show
to
up as
take
well.
down their
And that's where it
spice
becomes
gatherer?
another step, right?
So you're saying it's not just reskin Conan Exiles? Is that what you're saying, Joel?
We could talk about what the word reskin means. We could talk about, like, you know, that some of the best games in the world are reskins of other games.
So you see here, though, that there is a lot of sandworms that are popping up
Yeah.
here constantly,
Yes.
which is both fun to see, but also terrifying.
There is a limit to how much they will eat thumpers, right?
Yes.
They do eventually get annoyed.
Eventually
There's
they
like,
have enough.
I'm not that dumb,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
They'll eat
I
thumpers
see-
for a
Drive
while.
by a worm.
what
Do you see
I
this
see
radar
what you're
here?
doing here.
The
Yeah,
red
a
radar
diverse
says
palette.
there are worms around and they're angry.
But yeah, this is like...
You also see nicely the scouts around to see like also potentially looking out for sandstorms coming in. Of course, they're kind of
Worm
devastating.
sign.
I'll
in
definitely
this
dip my
particular
toe into the
one
deep
sign.
desert PvP, but I
Enemies
know that I'll
coming in
focus
as
on the
well.
Enemies coming
PvE
in. Yeah.
and just not bother with
So yeah,
this
it's
part of the
yeah,
game.
this is kind of the experience.
That's right
of,
now
like,
my feeling,
harvesting
right?
spice in the deep
95%
desert from a
of the game
large
is
spice
PvE.
blow. And there
This
are
is
smaller
5%
spice
of the
blows,
fun.
like that you can come
I'll
to
probably
with
just
smaller-
focus on
smaller
the
guild.
fun that I like to have.
We also have them in Hogga Basin, of course.
Yes.
Just
Level every
There's
class,
just a couple ones
level every
in
class
Hogga,
advanced
it's very
trainer.
limited because
right?
we wanted
Get to
spice
the max
be
level.
a rare resource that you need to go out here into the deep desert to get.
And talking about like concentration of people, like the spice blow you can see from really far away,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
20 plus kilometers away.
By the way, if you
So
consider
you
though,
do need to bring
this
some
is a
friends
whole
to be
guild
looking
now,
out for other people
which
coming
has
in.
to farm the
There's
spice.
another thumper down
And
there.
if it's getting
So,
attacked, that's
I know
two
we've
guilds
seen
gone.
some,
Who cares if I fly
comments from
around
people
into
that are
a
like, well,
lab?
you have to
shipwreck,
go into the deep
whatever,
desert to get like
right?
the highest type of gear and such. What
That
do
is
we?
not
Because
true.
if this is what
we
the
have
big guilds are
exchange, we
doing,
showed that before,
then-
right?
then I'm just gonna
you
do
can
the
be
tiny
somebody that
things
is
in the deep
making
desert,
something that
right?
a person on the exchange would want, right? That goes into the deep desert to get spice or to get like some schematics. They can go to Arakeen or Hargo Village, post that.
Since
and then you can
since these
trade
spice
from the
explosions, they're
exchange.
so big.
Or you can meet up in
right?
person and trade with the
Picking up the
PvP area.
crawler.
I think
Then
there
I'll
might
just
have
do
been
the-
some.
the other
some,
things. They're
we can't
81
hear it though,
tiles.
but there might have been some rumblings and some indication that.
Yeah. We I think that
You
they,
get raided
they
by
got one
Zerg,
side
yeah, but
and
if
then
you're
they got-
if you're on a top
The,
you're alone.
It's
Yeah, we have
in
a,
the
we
deep
do have a
desert.
known bug in the game where
If
the
you get
spice
raided by
colour
Zerg, you lose
disappears
your
from the sand.
Ornithopter, then you build a new
Still
one.
there. Yeah.
At this
But,
point
yeah,
of the game, you
so-
should have 10,
It's
right?
oh,
There he is.
That's why they.
and
Yeah,
there's the
you can
grandfather
actually hear
one.
that. Yeah.
that's shy.
It was great seeing the little sandworm.
Yeah, the
right
little
by
tiny
big
one on the side. You can see the scale.
Little baby like getting into the action there,
This is the ringmouth worm.
That's the ring mouth, yeah.
and that's gonna swallow everything
That
that's
one's
in the
big, yeah,
middle.
yeah.
They're
Hey,
like
if you don't get your
everything.
spice
There's
harvest
lots
out, then it's
to
over.
explore.
Joe Ever.
But these guys managed to succeed and they can take their haul out of the deep desert today with them.
Very well prepared.
Yeah.
They were well prepared.
Very well prepared. So as our crew here is now going back to. Actually, maybe we can explore a little bit because we do actually have Imperial testing stations here as well. And I think we're actually somewhat close to one, if I remember correctly. So we can maybe show that from above as well.
If you on your
Again,
own, you can probably
to
only
just
harvest enough to get by in a PvE
bring
zone.
it in that
Probably
there is a
Ashen,
lot
and
of
I think that's
content
fine.
in the
I mean, as a
deep
solo
desert that
player,
is
you
not
shouldn't
just,
expect to
flat out
participate in this
PvP,
very
right? So
much.
we really
Yeah.
want to.
Correct. And this is our high-end
Because you're-
PvE.
you're
encounters
intentionally
in the deep
playing
desert.
solo.
So the eco labs or ecological
can I
testing
say?
stations.
I recommend this
they're
new
actually
Dune
2
game.
and
If you
4
like
players.
survival games like Once
So
Human,
it's
I think the Dune game could be something
yeah,
for
the,
you.
The main PvE challenge would be
I will
out
play
here,
it,
where you're
and
going
I'll
to
show
get
you
those
all my
unique
life
schematics that we were talking about
experiences.
earlier. But you need to scout.
So I'll
you need
get
to
the
find
5-day
them,
early
and
access
then
for
you need
20 bucks
to,
more,
perhaps fight over
and
them.
then you
And
can
work as a
decide
team.
if
I
that's
think
something
these
you
are
like or
tuned
not.
Towards minimum 4 people.
Yeah.
We actually showed one in our combat stream.
Yeah, the
second part,
two streams
yeah.
ago. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. They're like kind of wave-based, kind of very different
Yeah,
approach.
in this
than
time
the
where they
Imperial
have played
testing
guys,
stations
they have
that we
only been in 2
Hagabase
tiles of
and-
81
They're
tiles so
every-
far.
it's the entrance
Yes.
to
Okay?
Colby
Again,
Station. And you know, like
the
as
Deep Desert
game
has
continues,
81
as we
tiles
go through live and
that
we
get
continue to
reset
update
every
and expand,
week.
There'll be more
Release date
things that
5th,
show up on the
early
map, for
access
example,
10,
from Seaches
full
and
release.
things like that people would expect to explore. So things will be
Exactly.
uncovered. And as I mentioned, like the layouts for the Deep Desert, they're handcrafted. We have a cool system where we like build the layouts by hand and generate the spaces between them with the sand. So it's kind of like we fill in the gaps with the sand.
Okay, so they're not fully
but, like,
AI
we
generated.
have-
That's good.
We are building new layouts for this all the time.
I prefer
right? And then over
handcrafted
time, we'll
experiences,
incorporate more
right?
and more elements. So there'll be always something to
What's
do.
in all these tiles?
The pillar of the game,
Shipwrecks,
infinite exploration.
research
right? And that's one of the
stations,
goals, is to
control
create
points,
a space
spice,
that's always explorable.
caves.
And something else I'd like to say that I think is like important is we will add, like we have the DLCs and things coming for the game. We'll be adding things in the DLCs, but the Deep Desert will always remain something that we consider to be at the zenith of the power curve in the game. So we'll keep adding to the Deep Desert. So let's say that we have tier 5 items in the game and we go to tier 7, then the Deep Desert will start to have tier 7 equipment and items and things in it as well. We will always try to keep it on par with anything else we add in terms
See,
of
they
power.
just confirmed
Because
that
the Deep Desert
PvE
really
players
is that-
outside of the
that
Deep Desert can have the
continually
highest tier of
explorable
equipment.
The
space.
central
And the
point
Deep Desert
that
will
keeps
also
all of
have
it
this.
Yeah,
together.
we'll continue to add like stuff, and there will be like in DLCs there'll be places where people can get access to gear that is currently in the Deep Desert, right? When we do that, we'll also increase the Deep Desert and make
Yeah.
sure that there's more things. So that's kind of the
How much
the
spice did they
long-term
get
goal
this time? Let's see.
is to continue
They show us.
updating the game and continue adding this stuff.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. To also ensure players about that. So while we actually have our team, or actually the spice harvesters, go back to on the way to the quartermaster to deploy, or like to kind of
Harvest the spice. Yeah.
give him the spice, basically. Yeah, give him the spice for the Lansraad thing.
Refine.
We do have an additional asset. We have actually a video from a stress test that we did with the beta last
Oh, dear.
week on Friday, where we see a lot of things happening.
Shout out to the beta players.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, beta players. Fantastic work on that side as well. So here, that's actually a glimpse at the stress test that we did. That's also Deep Desert. Lots of people together in the deep desert. A lot of ornithopters.
That's a lot of people.
All in line.
Like
Get
that.
their ornithopters.
to like.
Yeah, we were
see
spawning.
that as well.
They were spawning thopters like crazy. Someone's flamethrowing, throwing bombs. Players never behave when you put them in
I'm
the same
happy
space.
that the
If I remember
like
that's
the
actually
closed
Camille
beta.
We were-
Well,
we-
not Camille, sorry, Ignacy. I mean, that was Ignacy.
The context of
there.
the stress test,
Yeah.
by the way, was like we were testing people crossing the server boundaries with our mesh servers
I
and
love that
fighting
little
on them.
ornithopter back
Yeah.
there. Sorry, it's like,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
And fighting along the server boundaries just to see how the performance was. So you'll see people firing rockets, and yeah, it was a cool test. I think we got a lot of very useful data out of this.
Yeah.
And seeing how people were fighting together.
Also, shout out to our automation team because they every build, right? We have
For
the
once,
deep
I'd be
desert,
so
and
surprised
they
if we
have,
actually made a lane. Yes.
Basically, they deploy our automation system called Legion, and it goes and it tests all of these things, right? So it's got hundreds of ornithopters going back and forth between all the
all the servers.
I wonder how long it takes to
Yep.
make an
Lots
ornithopter
of-
as a single player.
There's a lot of testing that goes
Right?
into a project like this.
If you
Yeah.
gather all the
Yes.
resources,
And the
like,
more
is it
sandboxy
like
you
does it
get,
take an
the more
hour?
things
Does
can
it take me
break,
5
and that's
hours?
kinda what makes
Obviously,
it
the
10
more
minutes
freedom we also give
later
the
on.
players,
Yeah,
the more
exactly.
things
Yeah,
can break.
exactly.
And like, I think I said that to you earlier as well. That like, story-driven games that are linear and you follow one story are one thing. We do have that aspect in the game as well, but I think what we at Funcom really love to do is we love to create worlds where players can write their own stories and can tell their own stories, right? I think
Yeah.
that's such a different approach to
Yeah,
game
it's
development.
One of the ways we describe Arrakis is a crisis generator,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
One of
it
the whole-
is
yep.
spawning stories, and that's why like these tense locations like the deep desert are really important because it does
Talk about
spawn
water.
these memorable
You will
moments
have to build
that
up
you
a good
remember
water
that you
production,
experience with
but
your
that
friends or your
Yes.
guild.
gets better over time.
You make friends.
As soon as you get like the
enemies,
better
and that's
water,
really important
like
to,
the water
like,
transfusion
fully
stuff, it
experience
goes
the-
like
the politics and
Super
intrigue
quick.
of Dune.
100%.
the power of multiplayer, right?
Exactly.
Yes, like I remember, like we had a lot of really cool. Before we go back to actually delivering the spice, we had actually a lot of really cool moments from streamers and players and YouTube content creators.
Armored
About
vehicles,
the beta
there
weekend
are
or from the
tanks
beta weekend, and I
that can
remember
shoot
one moment.
rockets.
I call it the GTA moment, where one of the streamers, I think, he was harvesting
one.
something or something.
Yeah.
Or no, he was downed.
He was downed by an enemy.
He was
Yeah,
downed but
yeah,
not out.
yeah.
And then the
Yes,
other one
yeah.
comes in and just drives over the enemy that was like targeting him,
Yes.
and he couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah,
It's like these little moments that make, that create those stories that are so fun to share as well and are unique to you then. And it's like, and that is, I think, where for me, that satisfaction of really creating.
Are the
those
loot
worlds
rewards
comes
much higher in
Yeah,
PvP
I
zones
think,
compared to PvE
and I think it's
zones?
one of the things
PvP
like we
zone
get a
has
bit
a
of
PvE
a
portion.
bit of. I mean, it's fine. Like we
So
get
you don't
feedback.
go to
like,
the
oh,
PvP zone
jank,
for
right?
more
Like,
Yeah.
loot.
being able
You
to stand
go
on
in
top of
there
an
to
ornithopter is
fulfill the
janky.
quests for
It
the
is,
Lansraad.
but when they asked me
To
if we
then
should
get
remove
points for
that,
your
I said no.
faction,
No.
to then
Surfing
get
on an
permanent
ornithopter is
skins.
actually
That's very cool.
Why isn't that cool? Like, why isn't that something
Yeah.
we want? So,
But
like,
the Deep
sometimes,
Desert
yeah,
has a
we
PvE
make those
portion where you
choices
can
as
get the
well.
same
Like,
stuff
it's
as
like,
you can
yeah,
get
this
in the
might look a
PvP
little weird
portion.
sometimes, but you know what? It's
It's
way
a
more
Just
fun
not
when
the
you
amount
can
of
do it.
spice.
feature,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
the
way more fun
Lansraad.
when you can do it.
The meta on beta might have been, surfing on ornithopters, shooting people with assault
A
rifles.
little bit of that might be
Yeah.
fixed now. We fixed some of the assault rifle issues.
All right, so let's go back into delivering the spice now. Oh, actually, no. Let's talk a little more. I actually wanted to ask you both a question. You actually have answered that recently in an interview, but that's not the reason I'm asking because I plan to do it anyway. It's like, what is each of you's favorite thing in the game? I mean, you mentioned a few things that we saw, like the transport ornithopter and stuff, but I'm pretty sure there's other things that you're particularly proud of.
So, survival games for me, one of the best things they do is they make the world more interactable than other genres, right? So I think the team has done a great job of like using the harvesting system. Not only does the cut array like cut up the resources and get it, but you come across these like wrecked ornithopters, and every time I come across one and I'm cutting off the wings and getting the resources from it.
I know what
it
he's
just
talking
feels
about.
great,
It was a
right?
great
'Cause
feeling.
It makes the game grounded. So I would say that whole entire system there is really unique with what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I think I'm thinking about the one that I mentioned in the interview as well, probably. But like the Dew Reaper, and the way that you, because I like. Look, I made Conan. We made Conan, And Conan's a bit more stock standard in the survival sense, right? You're chopping down trees and you're harvesting rocks. And when it came to Dune, we had the design principle of like, make your designs fit Dune, do not make Dune fit your designs. And it was like, what does harvesting water look like in Dune? And there's a line in the book where Duke Leto is looking out a window and the sun's rising and there's all these people out in the fields harvesting dew off the flowers. And you're like, that's how precious water is on this planet. And that's a moment that our game needs to have. And so it isn't just like the confluence. It's like, yeah, it's cool, this action of like sweeping the dew off the top of plants using this little Holtzman
I like that with the scythe,
the
you go
water
like,
up and
then just
not
gather
only did
all
the animation
dew
team and the
in the morning.
effects team nail that,
It's
and the
kinda
audio
cool.
team got the like all of that works, but it's also like the back end, the time of day, checking when the dew harvest time is optimal, filling like, and it's so satisfying to be out there like 10 minutes before the sun comes up, and you're filling just liter johns full of water because you understood the game system and you understood the timing. All of those things come together to create an experience that I think for me it's just like, you can't have this experience in any game except Dune. And to me, that's the most precious
the time
thing,
to harvest
right?
dew,
Like, I
that
feel
was
like
a good moment.
It's so good
Like
when all
for-
those
like,
things
if you
come
treat
together.
this
Like
as a
as a
story
developer,
game,
that's just the most
let's
rewarding
not
stuff,
treat
right?
this as a
and it feels good.
like a story game.
I don't really care if anyone else likes it because
a good
I love it
experience,
so much.
too, just for
no,
that.
because I
Just
think
to
it
play it
really
through.
nails it, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't speak
And get
more
yourself
highly
skins
of how
for
cool
it.
that works, right?
Totally
And
get it,
shout out to the
yes.
team who worked on it and everybody who did their part.
100%. No, I
Because
get
ready.
that.
Because games are made by teams, right?
To
That's the
refine
other thing.
spice.
Yes, absolutely. So we actually made it now to the quartermaster, and we are
So we're going to deliver
delivered a
spice.
Yes.
Okay.
Try to win the Lansraad. Okay, so these
Took a while
guys,
to get back.
these guys ask you, so you, because you're sort of, you're a minor house or a minor house under the umbrella of the Atreides, you deliver Lansraad bribes to the quartermasters of the Atreides, and they make sure they get where they're supposed to go. So now we're delivering for House Alexan, we're delivering spice, and the House Alexan are a part of the manufacturing unit,
Actually,
which
I
is
changed
where
my
they,
mind.
and so we're delivering 500 spice melange.
Okay, that was
And then they're
500
going to make
spice
sure that
chat.
it reaches them, and then that
That's it.
will, in a moment,
And I think
change
you
the
need
Lansraad.
wood.
So you can see how you have an impact now.
Are they showing it? How much was that?
Lansraad is there under the
Lansraad.
social tab. This board refreshes every so often, so it's been a few seconds since the last refresh. Now we should be able to see our borders refresh with a certain amount of spice.
That was 200 of
Oh, we didn't go to
70,000.
Alexan. You're on the wrong one. You need to go to Alexan. It's in the middle.
Alexan in the middle.
Yes.
I know
And then we
that
can
was
see we've
6,000 out of
delivered
7,000.
Some
Okay.
spice, and the goal amount has gone up, so that you can see that we've increased our goal amount with House Alexan there.
So we've worked towards
Yes.
gaining
So we haven't
favor.
worked like once
64,000 more to
we
go.
hit 70,000 points, and we can do any of these activities to earn points. Like
That's a lot of
the control point.
You
we
know?
can-
Claim those.
yeah, we can
those
deliver
fields.
spice melange. But once we've done enough to earn that center square, then it'll flip to be Atreides and say that we've claimed it for the week.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's
Great.
Nice.
So that was a little bit of a glimpse of what mid and endgame can look like. Obviously, that totally depends on what you like to play and how you like to play. There's quite a lot of options.
It's good to
We
see that
showed you
developers like their own
a few
product.
of them,
Yes.
an approach of what
good to
can be
see.
done.
we're also jamming like dozens of hours of gameplay into like a very quick
Yes,
presentation.
100%. Like this is very like preparation is everything, which is of course true for the game specifically as well.
12k spice to win that
But,
title, yes, but
before we
12k
dive
spice
into the
forming your whole
Q&A,
faction.
We are gonna take a quick look at the Mentat.
Because your faction got to do this, right? Not you alone, not your guild alone.
So then, you're not quite dead.
Great plot.
There's a clip of that already out. I think we watched that clip. Yeah.
Developed out of the need to replace thinking machines, the Mentats, trained on the principles of philosopher Gilbert.
Should I watch the movie before playing this? Reading the book would be better, because this does not play during the movie timeline.
Able to
Bellissimo.
calculate immense amounts of data.
But it doesn't hurt to watch the movie. The movie's actually good. You should probably watch the old movie, which is even more like the old movies are
Combined
very
with
good, to be
advanced
honest.
assassination and combat technology, you will be able to think many steps ahead of your enemies. With a significantly higher cognition,
I really
as
think
a
about,
Mentat,
like, I need to get
you
Mentat
can
stuff.
calculate trajectories and weapon handling to find weak points in an opponent's defense, or even guide the calculations of an external sentinel turret to assist you with extra firepower. Focusing on strategic control over raw strength, a Mentat is an expert in assassination technology, using poison capsules to trap.
I watched an hour-long
enemies
video
in
on
a
Dune
cloud
lore.
of death.
There's interesting
Or
stuff
when
in
out
there,
of
for
sight,
sure.
Send in a hunter seeker before the enemy.
The
has
game
even
surely
noticed
gives a
your
immersive
presence.
experience, and that's what I
For
like the most
tactical
about the game so
advantage,
far.
the
Like,
Mentats
it's not
have
the most
devised
innovative
further
game on the market,
development
right?
of
It's not the game with the
imperial
most cool,
technology, such as the shield
like
wall
special
for
things
extra
happening.
protection.
But
And
it
to
gives
fool
you a nice
simple-minded
immersive
enemies,
experience
a
that I
projection of
have been
yourself
enjoying in the
will
beta.
confuse and scatter
And then I
their
got eaten by a
focus.
worm and I was
Throughout
sad.
the dunes of Arrakis, any school can be trained and improved by masters.
God damn it.
Increasing your mental capacity and further advancing your tactical technology will let you hold the strategic advantage in any situation.
I'll
But
never
to
get eaten
reach
by a
the
worm again.
highest tactical operation, adopting other schools of thought will increase your mental complexity, opening up further possibilities. Focus your mind and calculate each step forward to find the optimal probability for your survival on
Sniper.
Arrakis.
If I get eaten by the worm, I just have to refund my game and be like, no, no, I'm done. By the way, if you download the free character creator and benchmark, you're actually getting a free skin. Don't forget about that.
All right, and we are back for our Q&A. So our wizards behind the screens and behind the cameras are gonna throw up questions that have been collected. They're ready now. I was just told, fantastic.
Before anybody asks any questions, though, I just want to make a reveal of my own. My special toe shoes today for everybody's.
They look really cool though.
They are cool.
But
shoes are
it
very
also looks a bit
comfortable.
like
A
Hobbit
man
feet,
of
to be
culture.
fair.
Yeah,
Like,
I see.
at least close up, Chad. So it's good you have a little bit of a... It's good you don't have
Not
close
for all
ups.
the money in the world.
From what I understand, they're very healthy though. They're very better for you than actual normal shoes. So
Yep.
That's what they
Don't
say.
you know
That's what
those
they
toe
say.
shoes?
I started wearing them 10
very
years ago and I'm
comfortable.
still
Still
fat,
looks
so I don't know. Maybe
Super
they're,
healthy.
Maybe they're not working out.
well, your feet are very healthy.
My
Let's go
feet
there.
are massively
Yeah,
healthy.
super
Sorry, all
healthy.
right. Enough
All right.
distraction. I apologize.
No, you don't
Just,
have to.
the toe reveal was
You
important
don't have
to me.
to. We wouldn't want you any other way, Joel. All right. Rui's probably going to kill me now.
Like
right.
he's
We
getting
want it
ripped
every other
into afterwards.
Every other way. No,
Chat.
it's all good. Like it's also you guys make a really nice. You complement each other really well.
I've got
It's got
pants. He doesn't
Like
have pants.
Joel,
exactly.
next time is
He
going
has
to be
toe shoes.
replaced
Yeah,
through
you
someone
actually wear
else
socks as well. So it's just like
with shoes.
it's a whole balance thing. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
all right. All right. While we still wait on the questions, they're still collecting some of them.
Nobody has
give
any
them a little
questions.
bit of maybe no one has
We've
questions.
answered
Perfect.
every possible question
I
people
wish,
could have is
right,
fully
I
answered.
wish. Like that's
I hope
that's
there's
kind of
some more
the both the
PvE
blessings
questions.
and
I think
the
I have a
blessing
clear
and the
picture on how
challenge of
PvE
Dune
will
Awakening.
play
I
the
think
end
this
game.
is- it
But
has
I
so many
wouldn't
aspects
mind
of different games. that we really
if some
tried
people
to put
ask some
together.
PvE
and
related
people are
questions.
trying to understand.
Because I want to
You
hear
know,
more
when I was,
about
like,
dungeons.
presenting to the press about the game, and I was calling Funcom morons.
what
for taking-
Yes,
dungeons
of
for
course I
them?
was
Yes.
there.
If it's
I
just
was
more research
expecting
stations.
headlines.
I-
We
we
didn't
take
get a
a lot
single
of risks.
headlines.
Yes.
We didn't get a single headlines like that.
Yeah.
Funcoms are morons.
Well,
Chief Creative Director says.
Well, we are like we keep trying to, like it's one of the things that I love about working here. Is like they let me do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They let me try and do weird shit. Like
mean-
Come on stream with
I
toe
could-
shoes and
you
show
could work
them.
somewhere where you're doing the same game every year. Speaking of reskins, like and you're making the exact same thing and you're within this box and it's like and like I do like that we're allowed to push beyond those things,
I
right? And
agree.
try harder to do something different. And yeah, it comes with a little bit of jank, but man, it's I don't know. I feel like it's like the
I agree, though. I think one thing you can't say about us is that we like it easy.
no, exactly.
like-
We're morons. We make it hard for ourselves every time.
It's what we were talking about at the beginning, right? We make unique games, right? We take risks, and Sometimes it means that we make divisive decisions, but I think that's what was great about the
Is
beta.
the
right? It's like
exchange
people got to see
global
what
or
the
per
true
server?
experience was.
Player
it's-
exchange.
Exactly. So we're ready actually for the question. So is that Lopil 125? Is the exchange global or per server?
It is per world. So the world is what we call a container of all the Haga Basin that you will play and interact with, right? So there are hundreds of worlds, so it is not global.
Yeah, it is 1 deep desert per world,
Yeah.
2 social hubs per world, and then many Haga basins per world, and that is what we call a world. And yeah, as Scott says, at launch there are hundreds of worlds to choose from, right? And within each world, there's many Haga basins to choose from.
There's like a thing like
All right.
20 basins per world per 40
And
players. So
Speak asks, are the Overland map dungeons instanced per player? Can you do them as a group, or are they open like the social hubs?
good
The
question.
answer is that they are not instanced for a group. They are per player, and they are not open like the social hubs.
They are instanced, though,
Yes, they are
to a
instanced.
limit.
To a
So
limit.
several people in the same world can be doing the same, like
Yeah,
the
single.
water fat
Yeah.
mansion, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which are kind of our only instant content in that way,
Yes.
in that
Yes.
sense.
Yep. Correct.
Charlie Foxtrot CTV asks, how do the different circuits work?
They basically isolate resources so that they can only be used if they're on that circuit. And then you can set a circuit for the, it's a little bit hard in the UI, but you can set like a machine's input and output circuit
Yes.
that way. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
the extent with it.
Like draw from this storage, deliver to this storage when you're finished, right? Like and that's
Basically.
how
You
this,
can like
This
have
group
water
of
delivered to
different
other
items.
circuits
exactly.
to
And you can
automatically
set
do
a
something,
certain
but
number of
not completely
storages per
automatic
circuit.
because
So,
you always
yeah.
need to put the input first.
Yes, that's basically it.
Kriegsdrachen asks, how will they ensure balance between Harkonnen and
That's a
Atreides?
good point.
There are systems. I think I talked about this in that other.
You
when I got
you
that
just
question.
mentioned as well as
I
like
hedged it
we
last time.
have, but
we
you
have
didn't
some
want to
systems,
spoil
but I'm
it,
not going
which
to
we
talk too
shouldn't.
much
Exactly,
about.
exactly.
And then when we introduce a third faction, which we are planning to, it will also have a role in that balance. But that's basically what I can say right now. But ensure is very hard. Like it's very hard to like be 100% certain because, you know, when you give players choice, they choose. And so you can't guarantee that it's going to be 100%, not 100% people on Atreides on a world. But I think we have pretty good systems in place to make sure that at least feels like it balances itself out pretty well.
Yes, and the deep desert is not Atreides versus Harkonnen.
Yes.
It is every
Yes.
person for themselves, right? So even if Harkonnen are kind of dominating a server or they're 60-40, they're going to be fighting themselves.
Yes.
in the
Oh,
deep
so
desert
so a
as well.
Harkonnen
That's
guild
really
can
something
kick
I
a
forgot to mention
Harkonnen
when
guild
we're
of the
talking about
spies
Lansraad.
for
Like
the spies. Oh,
the
okay.
Lansraad, you can see the different within
top
the
guilds.
factions who the top guilds are and who contributed the most.
Because they
a
want to
part
be the
of
top
Dune
guild, so
thing
they're going
is
to fight
that,
the other
like,
top guild.
It isn't that like, oh, everybody in Atreides is a monolith. It's actually like people want the Duke's attention, so they want to be further up. And the same with the Harkonnen, right? Like I want the Baron to, you know, witness me, so I'm trying to get to the top of the list of guilds. So there should be inter-guild competition.
That's actually interesting.
Even within the factions. So they
So it's like
overall
free-for-all.
are working towards
Like
the
actual
common goal
effing
of the
free-for-all.
Lansraad. But they're trying to beat
Okay.
each other to be the best in the Lansraad, so they have the most voting power, they get the rewards, etc.
Yeah, especially also because like one Atreides guild might be focused on PvP, the other one might be super opposed to PvP.
Yep.
So they definitely don't want the PvP guild to like get, oh, we
Yeah,
want
but
full PvP.
I mean, you
so
don't
they
have
will,
to participate in the
work against
PvP
them and like,
Yes.
oh, we want to be
process.
top because
You
we
can
want to
just
have
do the
more say
PvE
in which decree we
and
actually
still
have
reap the
next
rewards.
Yeah, like exactly.
So-
a crafting
From
guild's
the
going
deep
to want the
desert.
crafting decrees.
Exactly,
And they're
yes.
not going to want the PvP full loot decree, right?
Exactly,
So there's going to be
yes.
that kind of competition, even within the factions.
Yes, exactly.
So, yep, good question.
Cypher asks, can our bases get raided?
So not in Haga Basin. They will be safe in Haga Basin. In the deep deserts, it's a bit different.
Yeah, in the PvE section of the Deep Desert, no.
Yeah.
But in the PvP section of the Deep Desert, there is a mechanism by which bases have a vulnerability window where they can be raided. It is a very short vulnerability window, and again, I would point to the lore of the Dune universe. So I'm sorry for everybody who hasn't read the books and doesn't know a way in which shields can go down for a brief period of time. But it is worth looking into because then you'll understand exactly how the mechanics can work. And I know I'm being needlessly cryptic, but I'm sure there's people spamming in the chat about it already.
Let them figure it out. Oldman Alchemist, if I don't take the mission to talk with House Atreides or Harkonnen, will I be content locked as far as progressing? Sorry,
No,
the main story and the ability to craft.
No.
Yeah, no. The story, I mean, while it involves House Atreides and the Harkonnen, it is not about that. It's about you and your role on
So you
Dune.
technically don't even have to participate in that.
So the main story follows that. What we were talking about and what we were showing earlier with the different faction unlocks, like in terms of the visuals and those things, you're locked out of if you don't want to join a faction.
But those
You
are
can't
pure vanity.
But they're pure vanity, right?
No mechanics.
But yeah, you can't. But one thing you cannot join the Lansraad unless you have aligned yourself with a faction. Your guild must be aligned with a faction to participate in the Lansraad. That is the one hard requirement that I think faction alignment has in the game. That's it. Otherwise, yeah, you can do all the content without joining Atreides or Harkonnen.
I also think when it comes to progressing, in the beta, during the beta weekend, you were still very much in the tutorialization part of the game, right?
Yeah.
So I know
Coca-Cola
that
advert.
some players were like, "Whoa, this is very linear" and things. But the thing is, things open up quite more once you're past that tutorialization section as well.
But I need the cosmetics
you
of
won't
doing
be
it. Yeah,
actually
I think like if you're
progressing when it comes to
engaging,
crafting or
there's
doing
no
certain
reason to
Yeah,
not.
in the opening,
Intel points specifically.
in the opening of the game, after character creation, you actually get a choice as to
Fremen
whether you
know
want to
there's
play with
only
an unlocked
Harkonnen and
tech tree
Atreides
or a
right
locked
now.
tech tree. The reason we put that there is so that people who are advanced survival players or people who've played Dune before can just go, okay, I want the unlocked tech tree, I know what I'm doing. But I recommend, and we recommend, that the locked tech tree is for people who are playing the game for the first time, and really, like, because there are so many, we've been talking about it a lot today, there are so many mechanics that are just kind of Dune mechanics that we want people to learn, and we need to teach them. And it's going to be hard for you to know what to do. Like, you don't know about dew reaping and times of day when you should be out harvesting dew unless you follow the tutorials that we put in place for that, right? So it's just that.
Or that you need to go to shipwrecks to craft better weapons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Koopa is asking, is there a level cap
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe we're at 200.
Yeah.
200.
currently?
Okay.
But you can respec.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's, I believe it's on a 48-hour cycle. So even if you cap out and you play something and you decide you don't like it, you can switch to something else.
And there's a point where you run out of, like, you stop getting unlock points for your tech tree, intel points. And then we have a mechanic in the game for you to go around and unlock more intel points by going to bases in the world, like enemy bases and outposts.
Yeah, you
So
get a
there's
farm
a level
actual
cap that
things
puts
and do
a stop
camps
to
and
some
do
of
that stuff.
those progression things, and then the next step from there is for you to go and explore more and enjoy the game more.
Because we do want you to make some choices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Also, like, I mean, there's different level and skill point caps, right? Because you have a character level, you have skill points, and you have intel points. So
Yes.
there's like 3 different
Yes.
caps that you
Yeah,
particularly
exactly.
hit. K69N is asking, is it possible to lose all your gear in PvP?
So not in PvP in the base level. In the deep desert, you lose resources that you're carrying, Solari and Spice. And you take durability damage to some of your gear. Right? That's what happens every time you die, PvE or PvP. But if there's a specific decree from the Lansraad which enables full loot PvP in the deep desert for 1 week, then that's the only time in the game where you can lose all your gear in PvP.
Well, that changes things.
Or if you're fighting in the sand in the sand.
I thought you're losing everything.
If you try
I guess
to
you
fight
can
the
lose all your gear in
sandworm,
PvP, but we count the. Is the sandworm PvP really?
You know.
It's more like PvE, but yes, 100%.
That's cool. I thought you lose all your gear too and everything when you get killed, so that's kind of nice.
Blueprints that devs made of their bases.
Oh, the
Ooh.
Tor Eagle presents.
Exactly, that's what Tor Eagle presents. That's actually very
That's a
cool. I
great
love
idea.
that idea. That's actually a very cool
Maybe we can
idea.
fill up some vendors post-launch with some of our
I was
crewmates. Maybe.
yes,
We'll
I
see.
was just about to say I don't think players should actually pay for them per se, but we should, or maybe they need to. I don't know.
You don't want copies of my
I mean,
bases.
you shouldn't. No, actually, let me rephrase that. We shouldn't have a dev sell those
Maybe Orny
items
blown
in
up is
game,
bad
but
enough.
we can sell it.
Probably
in
when
game.
you
That's
can
what I meant.
also
Maybe
store
we
the
can put a vendor or
Orny, Tian
That'd be
Wong,
cool, yeah.
maybe land,
Maybe a
quickly
vendor in
store
the
it,
world can sell some
get
blueprints.
killed,
You see, like Tor Eagle bases
Today is the
everywhere.
guy.
And
Today
keep
is
your
the
Ornithopter.
builder among us.
right?
Mine would just be no one
Mine
wants,
are boxes.
No one wants to see
Yeah.
my. I'm the guy who tests TTP
New dog houses.
TTP every time.
Yes.
So
I'm sure we're gonna have players who make fantastic.
Man, I'm really relieved you don't
Okay,
lose everything in the PvP, so you can actually dip your toe in and try it out.
Awakening?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's
I have no idea.
discussions going on.
There's
at least.
discussions. I can't remember what the last is, but people are looking at it. Yeah.
I don't have Slack open, otherwise you could check.
GeForce
Someone
Now
is
is
like
the
hammering
streaming
messages
service, right?
to me
Yeah, so
online.
will-
It's like,
the question, I guess, would be, will Dune Awakening be on GeForce Now for streaming?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yep.
interpreted.
I don't
as
know
well.
the answer. I'm sorry, but Scott.
Yeah, I don't think I have an official answer, but I believe so. But yeah.
Helping Hans, how do you balance the council wins? If one side gets unique weapons, won't that side have a better chance to win the next vote down the line?
Not necessarily, because the tasks for the Lansraad are pulled from, like, so there's 25 tasks per week, and there's a pool of like 400 tasks that can potentially show up. So you, first of all, don't necessarily know what's going to be there. Unique weapons doesn't actually influence everything. Some of the tasks are kill tasks. You don't know which tasks are going to be revealed first. You also have to bribe Lansraad envoys with spice to reveal tasks. And if your faction does it before the other faction, you'll see, okay, we need to do this. So you might just get ahead because you had more spice or whatever. It's not going to come down to unique weapons.
Can you
Absolutely
bunker
not. That's
spice
not
for
gonna
the
be
next
thing
week
that
to then
that
bribe people?
means that one side
Right?
gets a sudden
Can I
landslide kind of
pre-bunker
advantage.
spice and then be like,
yeah, so
give me the task?
I think that's
you little shits.
the best way to answer that, I think, from my perspective.
I think that's a great answer too, and I think it just goes again into people are a little bit too afraid that everything is about PvP and fighting endgame, and that's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
And hopefully we explained that a little bit today as well for people to feel a bit more like relaxed about that, or disappointed, depending. Dr. Evil Eye, is there any content or materials that are hidden behind PvP, meaning that the only way to obtain that item gear material is to risk losing to large guilds?
I wouldn't say hidden, but yeah, like you can. The Deep Desert, which we just explained, is a place where tier 6 gear is, like items and materials for crafting those things. You need to go there to get those things. You can buy them off the exchange. You can trade for them with other people, but yes, you have to go to that place in order to get those things. And there is a risk of people attacking you when you're in that place. We tried to explain that this is a very large place.
The thing
it's
is,
not going to be possible
you don't
for a
lose
guild
everything
to cover the
so
entire
you lose some
space.
resources
It's
if
not
you
going to
die.
be possible.
So even if I go in solo and I
Guild
loot
limit is
tier
32
6
people.
resources,
So
and
one
then I
per
die.
kilometer,
Yeah.
maybe, if they
I don't
stretch it
lose
out.
it
They'd
all.
have to stretch
I
all the
lose
way
some
across.
of
And
it.
even then, I think there's all kinds of
Yeah,
tactics
yeah,
and
yeah.
ways to draw them off.
As
and
it sounds.
I don't think it's going to be a problem.
There are potentially hundreds and hundreds of people that can be in the deep desert,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So one guild would be outnumbered by 100 people.
Again, if you want to rat, you can rat.
Yeah,
Like there's options, right?
And also, like the tier 6 gear isn't required for the story or
Yeah.
for anything that's having to do with
Yeah.
Honka Basin, right? It's sort of just the deep desert loop.
But we can't tell people that they can't get to the top number go up because they really people
sure.
always want that. So
Yeah.
so it's
There are
even
other
though-
ways to get it.
Even though it's not required, you I know people are going to want it.
I feel like it makes sense though, because those people who really care about the highest level tier are probably the PvPers, and they want to be in the deep desert in the first place. So I feel like it's kind of a natural balance there too.
Hopefully we also have I think there's this weird. I speak to a lot of people in our closed beta and our Discord, right? And I see that like there's people who kind of assume that everybody who is a guild in PvP is going to be this toxic, sweaty kind of. And I think it's going to be the opposite. I think we're going to have the good guy guilds who are out there actually protecting people
video AMD? It's
and
been
like
running
helping
good on my
people
AMD
out. I've
setup.
seen it in the beta
Very
already.
good.
People, I got lost in the desert, and people would come and help them, give them rides home, like give them more gear. I've seen people in the beta like just give other people an Ornithopter when they lost one because of a bug that was in the game from our end. They're like, "Oh, do you want an Ornithopter? I have a spare one." Right? It's great to see, and I think that people worry too much about toxicity. Hopefully, we'll keep track of it, of course, but it should be fine.
And you have one player for the entire world, right?
Yeah.
So and you are your name, right? So you will have some sort of reputation.
Yeah, exactly. There's that as well.
Yeah, as a callback to more old school MMOs that I grew up with, like EverQuest and all those. But anyway, so we have two more questions. Fort Team is asking, do you need a sync chart for each person in your guild?
Yes. You need to create a sync chart for every person who's going to want to reveal those things that you've got in your sync chart.
They're single-use items.
Yeah, they're single-use items, consumables, once you've created them.
And last questions. Neo Valkyrion, can transport ornithopters carry other ornithopters?
Yes, they can.
They can indeed.
They can indeed. I was playing it earlier. I was flying around.
So can a
carrying
transport
medium
ornithopter
ornithopter.
transport
They
a
can pick up
transport
pretty much
ornithopter who
anything.
transports a transport ornithopter?
again, they have
Anything
passengers
vehicular.
too.
Yes, vehicular. Can't pick up people.
You see where I'm going with this,
They're
chat.
sitting inside a vehicle. All right. So that was it with the questions for today, and also for our last developer stream before
Exciting.
Head Start and the official release. I'm like still like how. Okay, so
It's like 7
how
days,
do
8
you
days?
how do you boys feel, gents?
Me
How do you
first?
feel?
Go, Scott.
Pretty good, right?
Pretty good?
So beta went really well from
Yeah.
our perspective. The tech was stable, and that's what we're always worried about because we knew the game was pretty good, or we thought the game was
We
really
think
good,
so,
right?
yeah.
And all the tests we had run showed that, but we were a little fearful, that tech would hold, and it went really, really well with the closed-ish beta, right? The weekend, the server crash rate was low, the client crash rate was within our acceptable tolerance, and we're fixing most of the issues that we found. So cautiously
to hear.
optimistic, right? Incredibly excited.
I'm even more
to
excited
show
about
the
this.
entire game, and so yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see the end
last week
game.
is always
Right. I'm
Yeah.
interested enough
Yeah, it's
to
like-
play
it's
the
like-
game so I can see the
it's 5
end
years
game and
of your life.
experience this, and then can still
Right?
say this is
And it's
bad.
like- it's
know
like-
what I mean?
I think that's the thing that I think is like what I'm not sure people understand. Is like when you've been living and breathing this kind of thing for 5 years, and then like you see the game industry is volatile.
Yeah.
Things don't go well for people. We have a team of that I love to work with. We have a team of great people that we've built over the last years, and it's like it isn't about like success in the sense of like I just want to say that like it is a game that I think is great, right? And I've played it and I kind of know that it has a lot going on, right? And I think it works well. And from the beta we got some confirmation of that. But I want my team
Was beta content better?
to
No,
be together
but there were
making
performance
games
issues,
for a long time.
combat
So for
issues,
me, this is like
general
I'm
stuff
nervous
that
about
needs
that, right? Like
improvement,
it's
but
the
come
gaming
on.
industry is not
So
it's not a
fine-tuning.
safe place anymore, right? It's not easy to guess what's going to be successful. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm watching things and like you see things that are fantastic from small teams going great, like and there's been some fantastic games this year and games that you wouldn't have predicted coming out of nowhere, like Schedule 1 is a great one, but also like Claire Obscura, I'd heard of it, but I hadn't heard of it until really it blew up. And so you see these games, these huge successes. So I think it's like, you don't want to have the arrogance to think that you could be among that, but you hope. And that's kind of where I'm at least. I'm hoping we strike a vibe. I'm hoping that all the decisions that we made, and there's 10,000 decisions on a gaming project, right? There's 10,000 decisions, and every one of them is about moving towards a goal, right? Towards a vision, a creative vision, a vision of a universe, a vision that a guy created in 1963 when he wrote a book, right? And that's, I don't know, like I'm extremely nervous, but that's what we're trying to get to, right? And that's, I hope what people feel when they play the game is, yeah, okay, you nailed it, right? Like that's what we want.
And I feel like we've made an amazing Dune game, right?
Yeah.
And it's the first where you're walking right on Arrakis. You're experiencing Paul's journey.
We're skipping 2001's Frank
Sure,
Herbert's
sure,
Dune,
sure. But for me, right, in a modern sense anyway. So it's and we have a story when we want to tell. People saw a really short glimpse of it in the beta, but there's so much more going through the rest of Act 1 and Act 2, right? Playing through that. And there's this long story that we want to tell over the, Lex, you said 10 years, right? On the thing,
That's the
so
plan.
I'm
Yeah,
seeing that. So
10-year plan.
we have a long story.
What would you rate Dune and
we
Purchase
want
in
to
respect to
continue
other new
releasing
games coming
updates,
out?
every 3-4 months. With
We can go on that in a
additions to
second.
story,
Let
in
them finish
addition
talking
to the
USPS,
DLCs that we're
and then
going
we
to
can talk
that
about
come out.
this.
So when you buy the game, you're getting everything here right now, plus all the story content that we'll continue to release over the next years. So yeah, we're excited. It's a lot of pressure, but yeah, we'll do fine.
There's no guarantees in Love and War, but you know what? I'll say this for the record. I'm really proud of our team and what they've done. And like, no matter what happens, all of them can hold their heads up high because they have worked really hard to bring this to fruition.
Absolutely, shout out to our teams, the many teams that work on this game with all different departments.
Every department.
And absolutely, it's a beast of a game. I think we can say that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually getting goosebumps now. I'm sorry. I'm actually getting goosebumps. I'm
The good thing about
I'm
Funcom is
I'm sorry.
they have done this before USPS with
anyway,
Conan.
but I think that's a wonderful
So
note
they
to
know how
end
to run a live
this
service game
again
and
last
bring out
developer
content.
stream.
Yeah.
Yep.
a good thing.
On for before Head Start and release. One thing we can actually say is that you will be able to upgrade your editions on the 10th of January. So there will be an option.
10th of June, I think.
10th of sorry, June. Oh my God! I just that wonderful ending. I just completely read.
That's fine.
Oh well.
Congratulations.
Anyway.
So, by the way, it's a
Pro
4
here.
p.m. release, Chad.
Yes, so 10th of June, when the game goes into full release, you will be able to upgrade your editions, should you want to do that. There will be options on Steam. And we'll be ending. Thank you so much again, Scott and Joel, for being here during out of your busy schedules. So we really appreciate it, talking to us. And we'll have a last trailer. And with that, I thank everyone for watching and joining us today. And hopefully you'll enjoy what's coming your way.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, see you on Thursday.
Yeah, cheers.
So, where would you rate the game to purchase? I think it's a solid buy, because even if you just play the story until the very end, you should have around 50 hours of gameplay. That's what they're saying for the story. And that's without doing multiplayer stuff, endgame, maxing out classes, trying to get skins, deep desert, right? They're just 50 hours of story, kind of going through what Dune Surface has to offer. And that for 45 bucks, I think 45 bucks is the game, right? Quite fine. And they promise game updates every 3 months. And they know how to do this with their Conan Exiles title. So if we're going with Funcom's track record of actually updating their game and bringing out content,
Who are you?
they're not new to the game, right? They know what they're doing, kind of.
I am the man who ensures that it continues to do so.
That's overall how I'm looking at it, personally.
I dreamed of you.
I mean, for me as a content creator, it's also a risk. Do I want to cover this game?
Twin comets in the sky.
Right? Do people want to watch this game? Are there interesting videos to make?
I am.
These are important questions.
Of what
Might be that the game is a complete flop and I'm just literally wasting time and money covering it. So for me, as a content creator, I can right now say I see potential in the game as something possible. Hope the servers aren't flooded with cheaters. If you're not doing PvP, YOLO, I don't think that cheaters would even influence the way what you do. If that makes sense, right? They have an anti-cheat in the game, so I think the game is what is it easy anti-cheat? I don't know which anti-cheat it was. So we at least have a base anti-cheat.
Who are you?
God damn it, I love that giant worm. Alone for the experience of getting hunted and eaten for a worm, that's really immersive. Will this be a hit or a miss? I think it's going to be a solid 7 out of 10. Depending on how they update it, it could upgrade to an 8 out of 10. That's what I think. Our resources per person, Gathero. Resources respawn extremely quick, OMG. Like extremely quick. You pretty much, you loot a iron, then you turn around and look back, and the iron is there again. It's not like you farm like a few nodes, right? And they're gone for like a whole day cycle. No. The resources are coming back so quick. It's truly, that was one of the cool things in the beta, that you really had these things just popping up like really, really fast. So I personally, I am going for, I'm actually buying, so I don't have any content creator key. I just have to say this, guys. I don't have any content creator key. I'm going to buy this edition, the deluxe edition for the 5-day early access. I don't have a review key. I'm not playing the closed beta. I only played the beta weekend. Yes, this stream here that we watched, I said it at the beginning of the stream, but I say it again. We get sponsored by Funcom to show you this. Thank you, Funcom, by the way. That's amazing. That being said, I didn't get a key. so I will buy this anyways. I'm not like, you know, sponsored to play this. I have no skin in the game pretty much. Therefore, I'm in. And if you're in too, I'll post my server and we can hopefully play together or not, however you vibe with this. We'll also be making videos. I mean, we already have a starter video on the game on our YouTube channel, right? On how to begin, how to play efficient. But what I'm currently trying to get is maybe some like 3-day sneaky early access to give you an even better starter guide, if it's possible. I'm definitely going to ask my Funcom contacts if there's anything possible, because I would really like to give you some early insight. Sneak myself in. We'll see. Hopefully that's possible. Pretty sure resources respawn every 10 minutes. It was so quick. Like it literally, you farm the resources, you go back to your base, you build something, you go out of your base, boom. That's it. Dunzo. Good chat. Now that we're done with this, I am there. I wish you all a fantastic good night. For me, it's late. It's 8 p.m. I want to go to sleep with the children. I'll be back tomorrow for more. We are going to post some stuff about Dune in the future and towards the release of the game. So thank you for being here with me and hopefully enjoying this piece of content. And I can't wait to be doing more content tomorrow again with and for you. We got Elden Ring Night Rain around the corner. That will be covered here as well. Until Dune. And then Dune. Like crazy. Good night.